Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another exciting evening of entertaining racing action in the one and only series that aims to keep the Skippy alive. It is none other than the Skip Barber Community Trophy Season 5 as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. Sponsored by Musical Money Limited and the Old Git Racing team, we're here once again for another enthralling round of racing action. Or should I say 2 rounds of racing action, as it is another race evening. We are in to our final 6 rounds, our final 3 race weekends, and we have made our way all the way down under to Australia for the first of 3 country visits. First up, we're at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, located on the island from which it takes its name, near Ventnor Town. It is a circuit which owes its heritage all the way back to was its origins, albeit a long time ago, being what was a road racing circuit, but gradually evolved into a permanent racing circuit. It is one that is very heavily focused on racing on 2 wheels. Indeed, motorcycle racing is a mainstay here, although if you've been hearing the recent news, it may not be for too much longer, with MotoGP moving to Adelaide instead, but still, for the last few decades, this has been a circuit that's been a staple of international superbike racing, indeed domestic motorbike racing as well, and on 4 wheels, it is a circuit that has been played host to both supercars and all the way through to none other than lower formula cars as well. Indeed, there's nothing quite like a race round at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, and you're going to see exactly why tonight as we get ready to go racing once again. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight on the one and only place you can catch all this racing action on a weekly basis, and that is of course none other than youtube.com, and search for Paul Walsh Productions or PWP and you can be tuning in there. And if you are in the YouTube chat, don't be shy, feel free to say hi and let us know how you're doing today and what you're excited for. And if you've had a bit of a difficult weekend, perhaps the weekend hasn't quite worked out the way you wanted it to, and we do have work, of course, tomorrow because Monday's just around the corner, well, let's make sure we turn that frown upside down into a smile for at least one more time on this Sunday, and make sure that you end the weekend on a high with some brilliant Skippy racing. In terms of our schedule for tonight, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC, has been seen approximately 13 minutes time when we're making our way into our qualifying session. 10 minutes in duration, albeit it's expected to be much shorter than that, because the format tonight, well, you've probably guessed what it already is if it's going to be a short one. It is definitely going to be a shootout of sorts. After which we'll be making our way to the grid for the first of our 2 races, the round 19 sprint, due to get underway at approximately 5 to 8 this evening. 20 minutes, or drives out on circuit looking to go for gold, and indeed slipstream is going to be absolutely key here, and we'll explain more why very shortly. After which we'll take a brief breather before returning at approximately 20 past 8 this evening for what will be the 30-minute feature race. Round number 20 with that all-important strategic element thrown into the mix for the mandatory pit stop, and indeed it's always a race that keeps us guessing, as if our sprint race alone didn't keep us guessing as well. All your racing action, of course, brought to you myself in the commentary booth. My name's Paul Walsh, and I'll be taking you on your journey throughout the entirety of the season. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way into these 2 chapters of the championship and bring you up to speed with what happened last time out as we wrapped up our time in the US of A. Because as we can see, back on the 15th of February in round 17-18, we were in the USA. We were on the West Coast. California was our host, and it was the Long Beach Street Circuit in particular. But in a session that absolutely saw some terrific qualifying laps, well, in the race themselves, it was really 2 races of 2 different halves. First up, in round number 17 in the sprint race, we got to see an absolutely monstrous pole lap from Adam Miles, taking pole position by almost 6/10 of a second, the biggest margin any driver has taken pole position by over the course of this season in a qualifying session. And then after that, in the race, it was Adam Miles and Nathan Wade who pulled away at the very front, albeit Nathan Wade may have qualified on the front row alongside Miles, but as the race went on, he was gradually dropped by Miles, and Miles in him was absolutely untouchable at the very front of the field. And in the end, Nathan Wade fell down the order after a big slide at turn number 1 midway through the race, and it was Daniel Atuga and Mark Beckhouse who picked up his places. For Atuga, he had to hold off Beckhouse, with the 2 of them fighting hard, but in the end, it was a well-deserved second place spot there for Daniel Atuga, as it was for Beckhouse in 3rd place, albeit it was one of those changes whereby he always seemed to be on the coattails of the man who finished second. As for the feature race, round number 18, it was a far more dramatic race at the front of the field, because we saw some huge incidents early on involving none other than Tom Payne and also Gordon van den Bergen and Christopher Gerrits Jr. on the second lap, but otherwise we also saw some incredibly classic Skippy racing, which is always loved at the Long Beach Street Circuit. Your winner in the end was Marcus Byfeldt, who benefited from the incident with George Mattock in race number 1, which meant that he was able to start 3rd towards the front of the field in 4th place after a 12th place finish, and he didn't waste that opportunity, absolutely leading the way. He took the win over Adam Miles by 4.6 seconds, but keep in mind, of course, that Miles came all the way through from 15th place with the inverted grid to finish in 2nd. It was a strategic call, it worked out for him, and he really showed once again that he was the one with the ultimate pace over a single lap, if not the entire race, at the Long Beach Street Circuit. And Jeff Randall, he was galvanised by his 4th place finish in the sprint race, and in the the end he was able to hang on to the back of Miles for some critical points in the race and then make his way into third place, even if he had to fight hard to hold off Arjen de Vries and also none other than Miguel Cristina Martin for that final spot on the podium. But now today, it's the 22nd of February, and we're here at the Phillip Island Circuit, and if you look to your right-hand side of the table on screen, you can see there the format for today. When it comes back once again, it's the second of the 3 one-lap shootout sessions, and here is where that shootout could prove absolutely pivotal, because we are at a circuit where overtaking is highly possible. However, how this circuit sets up overtaking over the race is something in itself. But after this round, of course, we'll be making our way back in time. We will be reviving or resurrecting the Park Raceway, no longer in existence, of course, replaced by a housing estate. But that's going to be on the 1st of March, rounds 21 and 22, and then we will be bringing the curtain down in the pursuit of both our champions and also the Kings of the Mountain, because it'll be the Mount Panorama Circuit, rounds 23 and 24 on the 8th of March. But coming into this round, in terms of the standings, how exactly do they stand? Well, here are the Drivers' Championship top 15, and as we can see, Steff Herrmann right now leading the way coming into this round, albeit leading by some considerable degree. But these, of course, are the standings from last time out. And what we will do is now show you what exactly happens when we update them, because the story has quite considerably changed. But how exactly has the story changed since the last time we went racing? Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's give you a quick refresh of these standings. And what you will see as those standings gradually get refreshed by our wonderful software in the background is that suddenly, well, everything has been turned around, because Steff Herrmann was not on the grid last time out. He opted to miss the Long Beach Street Circuit round, and with that, what it's meant is that Adam Miles has moved much closer, and with the first and second place, whilst it wasn't a perfect score for Adam Miles, it was exceptionally close, and that closeness of performance has meant that as a result, he has inched his way into second ahead of Marcus Byfeldt, who'll be looking to try and come back strong. Of course, Herrmann is still the one in control at the very top. He has been Mr. Consistent over the course of the season. When you do have to consider Adam Miles now standing on a grand total of 5 wins this season, only being almost matched there by Marcus Byfeldt and 4, well, you've got to think that Adam Miles right now, your multiple-time champion, might have an opportunity to try and add another championship crown to the mix by the end of the season. Marcus Byfeldt sitting in third there, where he's going to look to bounce back today after, of course, the misfortune of his sprint race, but, of course, the greater fortunes in the feature. And it's Daniel Atugo sits in fourth, and now holding on to that fourth place of 402 points. The best part there of none other than almost 50 ahead of Jeff Randall. To be precise, the grand total of what is 44 points. Randall there sitting in 5th place, and you'll notice by the side of his races, of course, we do have 2 sets of drop rounds this season, so the best 20 scores effective for each driver will count. And that's why we are starting to see a drop score being applied there. And out of the 18 rounds that Jeff Randall has attended, we are only counting 16 of them. But of course, they cannot split their scores that they drop over multiple weekends. It has to be a single weekend. It's their worst performing weekend. And of course, we will up that to 2 dropped weekends at the very end of the season. So things are tightening inside the top 5, but they're also tightening just outside it, because Brian Kelly's not too far back by the best 12 of 24 points behind. Then we have Nathan Wade on 282 points, definitely picking up a good haul of points last time out, and he's ahead of Gordon van den Bergen by the best part of 70. Christopher Gerris Jr. sits a further 7 behind, with the misfortune in the feature race definitely costing him dear, but understandably now as he looks forward, it's Remco Pleiser who sits in 10th place meanwhile, and he's the best part of only 39 adrift. The Raging Turtle Racing drivers definitely come on form over the course of the second half of the season thus far, and he's 3 points ahead of George Matuk, who continues to move his form forward as well. And then we do have Adam Tompkins falling to 12th place ahead of Titus de Jong, with Peter Suapanki and Chris Wayne round off the top 15. And while the 2 other members of the old Git Racing team, whilst they may be a bit of a world away from Jeff Randall, well, they definitely did have some good points to score last time out at Long Beach Street Circuit, and they achieved them. But outside of your top 15, what exactly is going on in 16th? It's Dennis Johansson in 16th place down 104 points. Missed the racing last time out. Indeed, opting to prioritise his dear dog, and, well, did the absolute right thing there, and all our heartfelt wishes went out to Dennis. And, well, Dennis, I do believe, is back today, getting ready to go racing once again. He's ahead of Kevin Budgeon by the best part of 18 points, with Miguel Cristina Martin moving up into 18th there, meanwhile, only 2 behind after that brilliant set of results, including the top 5 finish in the feature. Then we do have Arjen de Vries, who sits in 19th on 77 points there. You've only recently joined the racing, but I can tell you one thing, his abilities in the Skippy have not gone away. He's a veteran of the Skippy, Skippy, and it has shown already on 77 points, one ahead of Josephine Becker. And then we do have outside the top 20, but only 5 points, Neil Gardner. Martin Van Ecklen sits in 22nd, a point ahead of Simon Wareham, and it's a further point in the distance to Frankie D, who sadly we won't see on the grid today due to the fact he's not feeling 100% well. And Frankie, if you are tuning in right now, we hope you feel better soon, and we hope to see you back on the grid at Oran Park, because we definitely miss you after that brilliant run to your first top 10, indeed first pair of top 10s I should say, last time out at Long Beach. They finally happened, and we were so happy for you. Tom Payne meanwhile sits 5 points behind him, but 2 ahead of Jesus Cabal, and then we do have Marcus Dorner, Mark Beckhouse, Tim Hendrickson and Christian Perez completing your top 30. So that's how the standings stand coming into this pair of rounds. And of course, now let's introduce our host circuit for today. It is the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, located near Ventnor on Phillip Island in the state of Victoria in Australia. It's towards the southeastern corner of the country, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just the brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. A grand total in terms of mileage of 2.76 miles and a total of 12 quarters. This circuit only has one layout, and you can see it on full display. And as our drivers get ready to attack it, well, the big theme around here, based on a two-dimensional image, of course, is the fact that this is full of sweeping bends, but also it's full of very gradual elevation changes. Minus 2 heavy braking zones at turns 4 and 10. There are no major braking zones otherwise, and this means it is a circuit about rhythm. It's about slipstream, and it's about being in the pack, and that's what makes this a very unique circuit for Skip Barber Racing, because whilst the Skippies are all about the tow, they're all about pack racing. Around here, it really will be about the pack racing from start to finish, and indeed, if anyone starts to fight, the whole field can start to split very quickly, and nobody will want to fight until the very end. So therefore, you've got to be smart, you've got to be clever, and you've got to think to yourself, when is the right time to make a move forward versus when is the right time to sit in the pack or let another driver go. And that's why the ends of the races will be so intriguing, because we will see on the final lap or the last couple of laps of both races, suddenly everything will start to move back and forward, and this is going to feel as though it's something pointing away on steroids. But as our drivers get ready to go racing, a quick reminder of the rules, of which we can't go racing without them. Car setup wise, this is an open setup series where drivers bring setups to their choosing to each and every race day session. Car fuel loads will be restricted to 47% for all the race day sessions, as mandated by the organising committee, and that of course does open up the prospect of a fuel pit stop in the feature race. Now for our qualifying session today, it is of course the 1 lap shootout. The session shall be closed. That means drivers have an isolated instance of the circuit in which to try and put that 1 lap together. They have the out lap, and then they have their flying lap, and at the end of the flying lap, whatever time they set, presuming it's valid, that is what's going to set their position for the sprint race grid. If they don't set a valid time, they start all the way from the back. And when we do go racing, well, the races shall commence by a standing start, as is the tradition of the Skip Barber Community Trophy, with 1 fast repair being available in each race should it be needed, and we should see drivers not coming to the pit lane for drive-through penalties, but if they do, it's because they picked up 17 or more instant points. Get to 21 and they will be disqualified, but nobody wants to see that. And how we set the grid for the feature race, round number 20 today, will be as always, basing it on the finishing positions of the preceding sprint, and the top 15 will be inverted. What does that mean in layman's terms? What it means is whoever takes the win in the sprint race, well, they'll be starting in 15th place of the feature, and we continue that inversion until you get to the 15th place finisher, and they will be receiving the pole position slot for the feature race. Those who finish 16th and downwards, you guessed it right, they will be starting exactly where they finished in the sprint race when they go to the feature race grid. And there we can see there is 1 mandatory pit stop in the feature race where drivers must take on fuel. However, changing tyres is entirely optional, and we never normally see it. But without further ado, let's make our way back to circuit side, and as we do, well, who's looking the quickest out there right now? Well, there's one name at the very top. No, it's not Adam Miles, Mr. Pole Position. Instead, it's Nathan Wade right now, the man who normally pokes and probes when Adam Miles is close on by. And as he makes his way on powering through right now, Nathan Wade definitely looking quite quick here. But I think he's got a little bit more work to do as he tries to move his way forward. But as he does, 2 tenths of the moment, Adam Miles won't be too worried about that, because understandably for Miles, his thought process is going to be that all I need to do is make sure that I'm towards the front and I can get the job done on the circuit. And that's what a lot of drivers do think, to be fair. Now, as we get ready to go racing today, we do have some newcomers on the grid, 3 new names for this season, and we're going to give them all an introduction. If they're not out there right now, we'll definitely give them an introduction when we do go into our 1 lap shootout. And in terms of the new names that we do have, as Nathan Wade there takes a bit of an excursion, and we do see Gordon van den Bergen pull his way to the pit lane via a tow. Well, here's none other than Arjun de Vriend as he makes his way up the hill. Well, our newcomers for today are Clark Williams, also Maximilian Siemens, and also I do believe Raphael Barber there, who'll be joining. 2 Austrian drivers making their way onto the grid, and I think Clark Williams based from the United Kingdom as well, and wish them all the best of luck on their respective debuts, and we look forward to seeing what they're going to be able to do on a 30-car grid here today. Indeed, it's absolutely packed here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Well, our biggest grid since the midway point of the season, and to be fair, it doesn't matter how many drivers we do have on the grid, as we do have Pedro Maron Cladera just joined the paddock, so up to 31 drivers now, which is absolutely brilliant. We really do have all of our superstars here in full force today, and we look forward to seeing how they all get on. But as we do look to Raphael Barber, as he comes through turn number 4, the number 12 driver there, lovely livery on that car, I must say, and as he comes on out, well, we wish him all the best of luck on his debut, and I wonder, given the fact that he's looking quite quick in this practice session at the moment, whether he may serve to shake things up at the very front of the field when we do go green flag racing. Speaking of which, in terms of going green flag, we've got the green flag almost for the qualifying session, ladies and gentlemen. We are only 20 seconds away, and well, whereas we do see Barber making his way up the hillside in towards turns 8 and 9, and very shortly into 10, the hairpin at the very bottom. Well, he's going to be doing plenty of drifting through that corner, all the drivers will, but who's going to drift the way to the top of the tower? Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the one-lap shootout in qualifying. And so, as qualifying gets underway, ladies and gentlemen, it is go, go, go for all the drivers. In fact, a slightly shorter qualifying session to respect the fact that, of course, we do have only the 1 lap. So this is 6 minutes in length, but by the time all the laps are totted and tallied, we will be running to our normal schedule, around 10 minutes this qualifying session. And as Brian Kelly makes his way out the pit lane, well, how important is qualifying going to be? The importance of qualifying is not exactly where you qualify your specific position. It is all about where you are going to start in the order. Nobody will want to qualify towards the very back, but somebody has to, understandably. But the idea is you want to be inside that top 10 if you can be, and then you need to work with the drivers around you in order to be able to make up the time and progress as you go. So understanding Brian Kelly, who has been a regular top 10 qualifier over the course of the racing this season, as he touches the grass there, not something he necessarily wants to do coming out of turn 2 into 3, as he's trying to pump as much heat into the tyres and brakes as he can, that one and only lap with a very limited amount of fuel in the car. Remember, they'll be taking all the fuel out, and they will be setting up the car for the most aggressive setup they can, and it's all about getting that tyre temperature as quickly as they can on this lap. Well, they'll all be trying to get into that top 10. If you can get on pole, great. If you can be towards what is the very front, so on the front 2 to 3 rows, fantastic. But as long as you're inside that top 10, you may feel relatively comfortable. But we did introduce Raphael Barber only months ago, and now let's also introduce one of our other newcomers here, and indeed running similar livery cars out. I wonder if they're part of a team. Well, the 2 privateers, because we do see Maximilian Siemens here, as he makes his way around. In fact, I do believe it's Simeons now, I should pronounce his surname as. Well, I do apologise for butchering his name then. If I do butcher any of them and they tune into this broadcast after the fact, well, feel free to point out, gentlemen, exactly how I should pronounce your name here, because we're always learning in the commentary booth. But we do make a huge welcome there to Maximilian, and we look forward to seeing how he's getting on, and over the course of today, how he does get on. And we also introduce here Clark Williams in the green and black machine in the number 98, and we wish him the best of luck. But as he heads on around, well, ladies and gentlemen, there's only one thing to do. It's time to get an onboard lap, and why don't we jump on board with the man who is fastest in practice? Here we go with none other than Nathan Wade, as he takes us around for a flying lap on the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. So making his way down towards turn number 1. It's a long run here as he goes onto his one and only lap. Getting ready for that long sweeping right-hander, but you'll notice he goes over the crest and now downhill slightly into this opening corner at 124 miles an hour. He'll chuck the car into the corner here, lift off the throttle slightly, get the nose in, and now back onto full throttle as the car will understeer naturally out wide and bring it over to the left-hander. Coming in towards turn number 2. Dab of the brakes here, drop down to 3rd gear. Apex speed of 72 miles an hour at its highest. And now he builds up the speed and returns to full throttle as he comes out to that left-hander. Now it's coming up towards turns 3 and 4 here. It's a long run. Turn 3, you can go flat out through here. All you need to do is be gentle with the steering input, because every little bit of steering input you apply, it shaves off speed. As he gets ready for turn number 4. Heavy braking zone number 1. Braking there just before what is the 100-metre board, coming all the way down to 1st gear and rolling into an apex of 47 miles an hour. He now makes his way out and in towards turns 5 and 6. Here the right-hand king in towards the left-hander. This is where we do see a more technical section play out. Medium speed apexes abound as he heads through turn 6, unwinding the corner there with the camber of the road. An apex of 68 miles an hour. It's now flat out all the way up the hill. But as he continues to go through, cutting all the apex curve there to straight line his run in towards the right-hander of turn at number 8. and now getting ready for turn number 9 here. The long winding off-camber left-hander as he continues to make his way to the highest point of the circuit. Keep it nice and tight, don't let the car creep away, but battling there with a little bit of oversteer. Now downhill into the braking zone at what's the 50-metre board and down in towards turn number 10. First gear, but plant the throttle immediately as you hit the apex to abuse the camber of the road, and now over the crest of the off-camber, turn number 11. And he'll let the car gradually saunter out wide here for the final quarter. And for Nathan Wade, it has been a smooth lap. It's also been a conservative lap. I think right now he's perhaps banking on this being a decent lap, but not his very best, as he makes his way towards the timing line here, building up the speed now, head down in the car, and hoping it's going to be enough as he crosses that timing line. Well, what's it going to be for Nathan Wade as he comes on through, and thank you to him for that onboard lap. It is going to be a time of what is there none other, as we wait for it to appear on the screen. It's a 47.820. That puts him in 6th, but immediately Daniel Tuga goes even faster. Arjun de Vries, meanwhile, going even faster than what was Wade, but not as fast as a Tuga, and it was for Arjun de Vries the best part of 1.5 tenths behind a Tuga, and the gap between those two drivers there, really the most prominent gap inside that top 10, and everybody else is within hundreds and thousands, let alone tenths, but more times to still come through here from several drivers. George Mattock comes to the line, and well, he's been improving his qualifying points over the course of the season. What's it going to be for him? It's 9th there, not too bad. We're 47.777. He's feeling lucky today, as we do see Dennis Johansson have a meatball after setting his lap, so I suspect he's had an off track on his second lap, albeit he's not allowed to do a second lap, but he will do it as a cool down lap and has perhaps hit a barrier, and well, a bit of a story with that one. Meanwhile, Neil Bamber's gone up to 16th. Adam Miles, the man who normally is known as the pole sitter in these races, given his pace, well, he heads towards the line here. Gordon van den Bergen shoots up to 5th there on a 47.566. A minute to go in this session. What will Miles do as he crosses the timeline? The answer is going to be, it's provisional pole for Miles. It's a 47.075 with no tyres. Well, 3 tenths faster than anybody else. Miles has absolutely nailed it. Can anybody respond? As Roddy van der Meijden has had an invalidated lap, so he's not going anywhere fast in qualifying. Meanwhile, Chris Wayne, he's coming towards the end of his lap. He will get this done with 30 seconds left on the clock. There's no overtime available, it should be pointed out, so they've got to get the job done. If they don't, then they will be starting from the back of the field just as much as they invalidated lap. But Wayne is the only driver on a lap right now. David Elliott, Joshua Harley and Titus de Jong, they've not set valid laps, and they won't have time to. And Chris Wayne right now makes his way to that line. Where can he be? Can he make his way into the top 10? Can he get close to his teammate Jeff Randall? And the answer is going to be for Wayne as he comes on through. No, it's 26th there, 49.616. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this qualifying session, and it's Adam Miles and Daniel Tuga who are in your front row, but Miles taking pole position by the best part of what is an absolutely staggering 3 tenths there. Not the biggest margin we've seen, but definitely one of the bigger ones. But of course, that may mean nothing when we go to the grid for our first R2 races today. Speaking of which, here we go then for the grid for round number 19. As all drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for the 20-minute sprint here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit in the Skip Barber Community Trophy Season 5. And on pole position for round 19, it is Adam Miles, the privateer from the United Kingdom, 3 tenths faster than Daniel Tuga, with the smiling Swede, meanwhile, having to deal with the fact that he was 1.5 tenths faster than Arjun de Vries. We then do see joining the Dutchman on the second row, his fellow countryman of Tim Hendrickson, with the privateer then being followed up by the pairing on row number 3 of Jeff Randall for the Old Git Racing team and Gordon van den Bergen. Behind the Sickhead Racing 50, it's going to be debutant today of Rafael Burmer, with the Austrian driver ahead of Steff Herrmann, and your championship leader starting 8th today. That's not too bad, but he'll want to move forward and get onto that podium if he can. And then we do have Marcus Byfeldt, the third place man in the championship, starting 9th, just behind the championship leader and just ahead of Remco Pleisier for Raging Turtle Racing, who rounds off the top 10, both in the championship and also on this grid. Outside the top 10, starting 11th, it's George Mattock, the privateer, ahead of his fellow countryman of Nathan Wade. Behind the two Britons, it's the American of Brian Kelly, with a weaker qualifying points today, but to be fair, to be on the 7th row, he'll be looking to move forward. He's in the company of Peter Suapanki for the Old Git Racing team in the 777, and Dennis Johansson could only achieve 15th today, but he might be a little bit rusty and need to shake off the rust. The number 7 driver has the company of Josephine Becker starting 16th alongside, and then we do have both Clark Williams, the Englishman, and Neil Bamber on the 9th row, and your top 20 is completed by Maximilian Siemens and Christopher Garros Jr. Behind the Austrian and the Swede, we then have on row number 11, Marcel de Hint back on the grid once again, looking to go for gold, ahead of Simon Wareham. Then on row 12, it is going to be James McRitchie and Tom Payne ahead of Noel Ritchie Robertson and Chris Wayne. Then Pedro Maron Cladera starts ahead of Titus de Jong, and it will be Roddy van der Meijden and David Elliott on the final full row of the grid. And starting last but not least, it's Joshua Harley. But ladies and gents, without further ado, the lights are coming for the first time today. And as they go on, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. and drop the hammer. Here we go. It's lights out. Off they charge towards turn number 1. And Adam Miles right now getting a decent start there as he wants to. We can see Daniel Tuga immediately looking to cut in behind here. And Tim Hendrickson starting in 4th place. Had a bit of a slow start by comparison. And, well, I wonder if Jeff Randall's thinking about potential moving to 1. Not quite, as they all come through the long right-hander. And, well, a few drives further back, they'll look to go too wide here, as well as the leaders, meanwhile, immediately try and tuck into a line. And this is all about early tactical positioning between drivers, and this is where the patience will definitely prove valuable. Josephine Becker finding herself on the outside there in the Studio Ghibli machine versus Peter Suapanki. Bit of a drift there, tyres onto the grass, but hold on for now. Car going wide in front. That's Desha Hansen's going to try and rejoin when he can. And as he tries to do so, the number 7 driver does find his way back onto the road, albeit losing several places there after gaining a couple. But into the first heavy braking zone they all come, and Adam Miles right now keeping Daniel Tuga back as Hendrickson dives up the inside there with his fellow Dutchman at De Vriend, and De Vriend's now going to fall down behind Randall coming up towards turn 6, albeit Willie in fact, because he's going to be on the inside there coming through that left-hander. And Jeff Randall meanwhile rolling his way on around, and we can see that Gordon van den Bergen in close proximity with Rafael Barber, having started still there for the time being. But further back, a bit of fighting going on still between Becker and also Clark Williams. Clark Williams trying to make his way through here for 16th place, albeit Becker's trying to come back to take that place back off of him, so they'll restore their starting positions. Albeit I do wonder if Clark Williams right now has got something else to say about that, because on the inside of turn number 9, that's going to be an ideal line. Neil Bamber meanwhile drifting there just in front. He's going to go to the grass. There is Bamber struggling with grip. There's a lot of dust on the circuit. In fact, it does look as though the wind's really blown a lot of gravel into the circuit compared to qualifying, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's causing a lot of trouble, a lot of drivers to struggle right now in terms of finding those grip levels at the end of this opening lap. But around they all come, and as they do, Chris Wayne right now holding on to that 23rd place, looking good, gaining 3 places since the start, starting 26th, but he's got more to do with James McRitchie right in front of him. But after 1 lap of racing, it is Adam Miles who leads, only by a 10th over Daniel Tuga. And then we do see Tim Hendrickson behind in 3rd. Those 3 working together. Arjun De Vriend sits in 4th, ahead of Jeff Randall. Your top 5 were 4 attempts of second gap to Gordon van den Bergen, who's in 6th, ahead of Steff Herrmann, who's gained 1 place. Rafael Balmer has dropped behind the championship leader to 8th, ahead of George Matuk. And then we do have Marcus Byfeldt completing that top 10 with Nathan Wade currently in 11th place, bringing Brian Kelly along for the ride behind him. Unfortunately, we have had technical issues for Titus de Jong. He has not been able to start this race due to a technical issue with the car, as we're to understand it. So therefore we have lost 1 driver already, but we still have 30 runners, as meanwhile Jeff Randall and going side by side there with De Vriend again, and with De Vriend on the inside this time. These 2 fighting each other coming on down. Neither driver wants to really give up the spot at the moment. And we'll do keep in mind as well, as we've heard from drivers over the course of this season in post-race interviews, the fact they've mentioned the further you are down in the pack of cars, the harder it gets being in the slipstream, because of the problem of the fact that these cars, whilst you do pick up a toe or a double toe, the limit in terms of how much slipstream you pick up is normally around 2 to 3 cars in front of you, where you pick up the double or the triple toe. But each time you're further back in that pack, it becomes that little bit harder, as everybody's gaining the toe off the next guy in the order. Albeit Adam Miles there decides to go out wide coming up the hill through turn number 9. That's to give the spot up there to Tim Hendrickson, opting not to fight here, playing the long-term game, which is there's no value in doing so. That's a bit sideways there to Rafael Balmer. Contact to him, and that's George Matuk coming in a little bit taut. And as a result, well, they do survive it, both drivers there, but Rafael Balmer almost losing it, almost lost it coming over the hill at 9, and Matuk added to the woe there as they come through. But I don't think there was any malice meant by George Matuk. I think being caught out, there's so much gravel and dust on the run of the back end of the circuit right now, and they're clearing it gradually, but that's going to go onto the tyres. That is not going to help them in these early stages, as they're still trying to get those tyres warmed up, albeit after 2 laps they should be quite warmed up now. Looking back to James McRitchie, where he's got the company of Maximilian Simeons behind him, and also Tom Payne right in front. You can see how this group of drivers is now starting to fall away from the leaders, with Neil Bamber really being at the forefront of the group. But we do see some chop and change coming in towards turn number 1. Well, that's going to be side by side there between none other than Payne and Wareham. Tom Payne gets up the inside, gets that move done. Oh, that's a big drift sideways, however. And now he's going to have to go defensive versus McRitchie as they go through the left-hander. That's not going to help him at all. He goes even more deep there, and Payne right now struggling. And we're adding woe to his pain already as they come on out. And meanwhile, Elliott and Simeons, they're at the back of this group and fanning out here, trying to find the right driver to back. Indeed, it's looking right now, all these drivers slipping and sliding all over the road. It's not rain, it's just the amount of dust here at the moment, and given the remote location of this circuit and the fact that it is exposed to the sea, we can understand why we are seeing quite heavy winds, and as a result of those winds, we are subsequently experiencing what is a lot of gravel and dirt being pushed across the circuit, and they need to try and wear it off. But as Tim Hendrickson continues to lead this race, Jeff Randall and Adam Miles have moved upwards, and Randall in particular has now come into second from a 5th place start. Albeit some would say that this is just going to be about him moving forward, and Miles right now just simply letting him have his time in the sun. Through the long left-hander here of turn at number 9. Daniel Tuga there on the inside of Argent Reed with Steff Herrmann behind, and we jump on board here as you get a real exposure. There's a number of stone chips coming up and all the gravel being kicked up at the road surface. But right on board with Herrmann this time, the German driver right now places bets. Who does he want to invest in? And he's going to invest in Tuga. He's going to get on the inside of the Reed coming into the final corner. Of course, there's plenty of room to go too wide through here. Unlike other open wheel Formula Series, say Formula 4s, you would not be able to go too wide without perhaps a slight lift. But these Skippy machines, whilst they've got a lot less error, they've also got quite less punchy engines by comparison. These really are a good starter for those looking to make an in-way into open wheel racing. And Steff Herrmann right now picking up the toe there off of Atuga, is going to look to the racing line. Atuga holds the inside there, not quite falling into the slipstream, but I think Atuga trying to essentially staple himself to the front of this group and make sure he stays with Miles as Herrmann runs a bit wide, just about keeps two wheels on the curbing, so it's going to keep him within track limits or thereabouts, but he's right now driving on the limit, and these cars definitely sliding and sluicing around, but understandably that's all part of the game. As we do see, where's Marcus Byfeldt there being edged slightly wide by Raphael Boehmer, albeit both drivers are trying to hold on to that space, and Gordon Vandenbergen just in front. They're trying to mediate the pair of them, as that's a big run wide there coming through turn number 3 from Vandenbergen. It's going to put him on the inside, very much on the inside into the hairpin, and will George Mattock watching behind in 10th place. They have a small lock up on the front right brake, but all these drivers rolling on through right now. We can see the long line of cars there going all the way back to Remco Pleisier from the leader to 13th place. And the gap is only 3 seconds, if that, right now. That's how close they are. And they're all trying to stay in the toe of one another and making sure not to break the pack. Further back, your second pack right now is headed by none other than what is Dennis Johansson in 14th place. He has a pack of 5 cars, but we're looking at pack number 3 here, and this is the pain through to Simeon's pack, with Maximilian Simeon's falling all the way back there to 24th place after a small excursion wide coming out of turn at number 6 and up the hill into 7. But as he falls back there into the group, well, understandably, all these drivers right now would like to make them way forward in order to get into that top 15 for the potential reverse grid of round number 20, but the problem is they are very far back at this time. 4 seconds doesn't sound like a lot off the back of Neil Bamber, but in reality, it is a very long time. And it's not easy time to be made up for either. But as they come towards the end of their current lap, we're going to take a look back at some of the big moments from the start of the race, including what happened to Maximilian Simeons on the opening lap. So this was Simeon's making his way through turn in number 2. Several drives did run wide here, I think understeer and cold tyres, plus also dirt on the road. And Simeon's there putting 2 wheels onto the grass and gradually being pulled away. That grass does slope away from the circuit gradually, and that's what will have gradually pulled him further and further out. We did also see Dennis Johansson have a bit of a moment, and Marcel de Hint also had a bigger run wide. This is what it looked like for Marcel de Hint in the gold and white machine. And well, in the end, a bit further behind Simeons, and found himself in a 3 wide there. And in there was wheel-to-wheel contact between himself, and I believe that might have been the car there of none other than Peter Suopanki. And in the end, that's what happened between the two. In fact, I'm not sure that was Suopanki or ever actually it was Chris Wayne. But either way, contact there, and that sends him on his way and caused him to drop all the way to the back of the group. We then had this for Neil Bamber moments later. And this was in the Marlboro Jordan livery, of course, the split livery car. And a tribute there to infamous Honda liveries. In fact, no, it's not the split livery car. That's been one of the other drivers here, purely the Marlboro livery, and just running a little bit wide out of the opening corners ending. But as we do come back to your live racing right now, we're still plenty more ongoing. And, well, we have had difficulty for Rodi van der Meijden that we just had happen quite recently, so we're going to get a replay of that when we can. That meanwhile, Adam Miles and Steff Herrmann together coming over the hill. Right now, Stephanie still proving to be tenacious as Steff Herrmann trying to get ahead of Miles here, and well, this is important for the championship, because if Herrmann can finish ahead of Miles, he will just reset some of the progress that Miles has made over the course of the last few race weekends, and that's what Herrmann's got to be thinking of. Of course, he has done very well in the first half of the season. He's really been the best driver of the first half of the season as Herrmann, but Miles has come on very strong in the second half of the season. And whilst Herrmann has not been beaten, he's been finishing close behind him, taking top 5s and podiums. But I think Steff Herrmann might want to get the upper hand at least one race today, just to give himself a bit more of a comfort factor. But that's going to be 3 wide there between Atuga, Herrmann and Byfeldt as they come through. And coming on down in towards turn 1, well, in fact, that's Miles on the outside there. And behind, that's going to be Boehmer and Byfeldt going 2 wide. So it's 3 by 2 here. We're not talking about football formations. And coming up towards turn 2 right now, Daniel Atuga really being the orchestrator of all this as we look back for the rear of the number 91. Adam Miles has come through. Byfeldt's also snuck his way out the inside, and Steff Herrmann's been relegated back to 7th. But how these drivers can all stay so close to each other and not make contact, or if it is the slightest of touches, and it does not upset the cars. That's testament to their knowledge of racing each other, and also their dexterity in racing the Skippy machine. into that braking zone into the hairpin. You can see there Herrmann trying to dice up the inside of what is none other than Byfeldt, trying to get that place back. And in the end, will he be able to do so? Well, no, he won't. Marcus Byfeldt goes nice and wide defensive on the inside of turn number 6. And that forces Herrmann back a little bit. But of course, everyone's still staying together as I go into the second half of this race. Steff Herrmann still doing all the work he can here, knowing now time's of the essence to try and move forward as Jeff Randall leads this race for a moment. And Jeff Randall has yet to win a race this season. He's taken a limited number of podiums. His best result, of course, was the race weekend at Alton Park, where it was a double podium for him on what was a strategic masterclass in the feature race. And in the sprint race, he just managed to make it work out. As meanwhile, that's Rafael Barber going very late on the brakes there, in towards the hairpin, almost clipping the rear of Gordon van der Bergen. I think he might have hit a patch of dust on the road. You saw the car just simply slide forward there under braking, and well, you go wide out of turn number 9 and end up on the inside of turn number 10. There is no grip for you there, and we definitely saw that for Rafael Barber only moments ago. But we also see Brian Kelly now making his way forward here in the blue and white machine, and the American driver here definitely having mixed success on home soil, but right now definitely looking to try and have the maximum possible success at the furthest point away from home soil as they get ready to go in towards turn number 1. Free wide there, free wide at the very front of the field as well, and that's going to be Jeff Randall having the reverse Moses manoeuvre played out on him. That's going to be Tim Hendrickson on the inside, and meanwhile Daniel Atuga trying to go up the outside to inside. And well, will he be able to get it done? The answer is yes. And now Byfeldt and Randall touch wheels for a brief moment, and Steff Herrmann tries to sneak his way out the inside. They're following Byfeldt and through. Meanwhile, Adam Miles falls to the back of the group, but there's a plan in the madness here as he falls back to 6th place, and he's going to let them all fight for a little bit longer before he now starts to get involved. But as they all continue to get stuck in with each other, there's a big fanning out of 3-4 wide here coming into the hairpin in the second group. George Mattock looking up the inside, very late on the brakes. Big lock up there from Brian Kelly. I'm not sure there was contact there to De Vries. If so, De Vries has been elbowed wide at the grass. Alternatively, he's had to take the escape there. Alternatively, he's missed his braking zone entirely. Arjun De Vries definitely getting caught out. We're going to get a replay of that shortly as we do take a look back at what exactly happened to Roddy van der Meijden on lap number 4. Now this was the number 23 driver making his way up towards, I think it was the hairpin at the time. Something went very wrong from here under braking. What exactly happened? And the answer was big lock up there and clip in the rear of the car in front of him. That was your number 51, I do believe, or 57. That was Joshua Harley clipped and under braking. A big lock up there for Roddy van der Meijden. Just missed his brake marker, and well, the consequences were visible to see. We had this meanwhile for James McRitchie a lap later. So McRitchie had already gone wide by looks of things somewhere. Car not in a happy place, and in the end decided, I think as he made his way upwards to, the car snapping on him there and going into the barrier. I'm not quite sure what's happened, but James McRitchie leading to drama there, and well, something's broken. That's not a good sign whatsoever, and we'll back to live racing we go. But that's how we've lost James McRitchie. I wonder if there's a steering wheel failure on that car, because it was going absolutely fine and suddenly snapped loose. But meanwhile, we come back live to 4 wide now to turn number 1. Well, they're listening to this commentary surely, and they're just trying to up the ante here. It was 3 wide on the previous lap, and now it's 4 wide into the opening quarter. So Steff Herrmann now leading. Oh, goodness me, how it's chopped and changed. And where you've got Tim Hendrickson and Daniel Atuga literally side by side with each other as they come on around through turn number 2 and down towards 3. But what we've also got is Jeff Randall at the back of this group right now as we ride on board, looking firstly back from Randall. That's the gap to Miles, who seems to be very comfortable. And then we look forward in Jeff Randall's car. In this case, he's going up the inside here and looking to try and thread the needle onto those brakes. And right now, the 107 driver getting nice and tight there on the apex. Marcus Byfeldt still in his outside, and it's crazy to think right now these 4 cars separated, well, in fact 5 cars, let's correct ourselves, separated by 0.3 of a second in total, making the way on around through that corner. And now suddenly all spread it out once again. As quick as that, the battle just continues to rage forward, then it rages backwards, but you've got to love it. And your top 6 have now broken away from the rest. Brian Kelly leads the new pack that's formed behind. He's currently in 7th ahead of George Mattock and Rafael Barber. But understand me, as this race goes on, it really will be about thinning out the pack, and then the final group at the front will be those who fight for the win at the very end. As Mattock right now looking eager there to try and get the upper hand on Rafael Barber. Is he going to be able to do it? Yes, he is, into the second hairpin, but Brian Kelly will now aid both of them on their way as they come back round towards us. 6 minutes left on the clock. Not long left in the race, but still, with the number of laps remaining, this is going to be a grand total now of approximately 3 to 4 laps. It's going to be close as to whether they get an extra 4th lap in or not, and that might lead to a question mark of whether drivers have got enough fuel to get to the end, because of course they do have a restricted fuel tank, but that restricted fuel tank doesn't mean you have to run the full fuel tank, and in these sprint races they do normally run perhaps a little bit less. But here we go, chop and change at the front again onto lap number 9, and Hendrickson up the inside of Atuga, who decides to go outside to inside as they all slide their way in towards towards turn number 2. And Adam Miles at the back of this group right now, still needing to find a way to poke his way on through. Further back, and where's your fourth pack? The fight for 19th place at the front. Here's 4 wide, almost 5 wide here, as Maximilian Simeons in the end will get ahead of Suapanki and Payne. Suapanki trying to go all the way around the outside of the group. He does so very well. And Tom Payne and Chris Wayne now fighting further back, as we do see the Tom Payne special, dedicated to the John Player special liveries of old years of Formula 1. Well, Payne goes out wide there through turn number 2, with Wareham and Elliott playing suit. And David Elliott there, of course, flying the colours of the Irish flag, hailing from Ireland. And well, right now, the Irishman in 24th place wants to get a bit more involved, having started 30th. He's had a good race so far, but I think he wants even more before this is all said and done, and wants some points to add to his tally. But on the break in, Payne there right now, coming through. Oh, big lock up there. That's going to be Suapanki going very wide, but in the end, Peter Suapanki does keep that together. Well held by him in the 777. Will definitely ride his luck there, and if he was a cat, he's used up one of his 9 lives, but that lock up definitely looked dramatic. But in the end, he was able to release it and roll the car on through, and everyone else was too far back to capitalise. From then, we come up the road to Dennis Johansson, and right now, well, the Dane, what is your defending champion, of course, from season 4. Well, it may not be a championship well defended given how he's performed so far this season, albeit he did take what, of course, was that brilliant pole position at Brands Hatch in the season opener. Well, right now, Johansson in the number 7, looking to hold off Gareth Jr., Williams and Becker, with Barber on the back of the group. So it's all continuing to come to a head, and will we make our way on to lap number 10. But 3 minutes 50 now left on the clock as they go on to this one, and well, it's going to be 4 wide at the front again here. And I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, they are not holding back at the moment, as we can see everyone fanning out wide, everyone deciding who to invest in. Adam Miles goes to the inside this time. Brief wheel to, oh, and it goes wrong. There's going to be contact there. That's Marcus Byfeldt sent sideways with Daniel Atuga. I think there was additional contact to that, but as they all come through, oh no, George Mattock clips the rear left tyre there of what is, I believe that was none other than Daniel Atuga's car, but somehow George Mattock has survived that. That was the tiniest of touches, and Mattock has got suspension damage. It's confirmed, as we do get a call with the meatball flag there. So the clipping between Mattock's car and Atuga's, in the end, he has not survived it the way he's wanted it to. Can he hold it together now with only this lap plus another 2 to go? Because keep in mind, the meatball flag says you must pit within 3 laps it being awarded, otherwise you will be disqualified. But if he finishes the race without pitting, if he can do without being disqualified, he will be allowed to keep that position. So for George Mattock right now, it's a question of whether that car feels safe to drive or not. Normally, it doesn't feel safe to drive when you get a meatball flag, but there are those rare exceptions where you are able to manage it. And Mattock now has got to make a tactical choice. Does he try and hold on when he's driving a heavily damaged car, or does he come into the pits and lose all the places and essentially relegated himself all the way to the back of the field for race number 2? Well, surely it's got to be the 4, where he's got to try and hold on as best as he can. But meanwhile, Adam Miles battling side by side with Jeff Randall coming down the hill in towards turn number 10, and Hendrickson and Herrmann together. Now what was a top 6 is a top 4 fight for the win. With 2.5 minutes to go, they will come around. They may squeeze in 2 more laps yet. It is going to be so close here, and with the lack of fighting until now, that's really opened up the door to a 12th lap. But Miles on the inside, 2 minutes 10. We are going to be getting 2 more laps, ladies and gentlemen. Unless this race gets called early, which normally it doesn't. But Randall and Miles right now fighting hard. Jeff Randall getting the slingshot coming out of the final quarter. 2 minutes on the clock. On to lap 11 to go. We've got 2 more laps here before we do see the checker flag. And right now, Tim Hendrickson trying to go all the way around the outside here. So 3 wide at the front. Steff Herrmann, meanwhile, playing it casually and come through that long right-hander. Well, Randall on the inside initially, but now the promise is on the outside. Adam Miles right in the middle here. And meanwhile, Tim Hendrickson just slides his way up the inside and says, I'll take that, thank you very much. Further back, George Mattock is carrying on. He is going to try and risk it. And well, so long as he doesn't get involved in an instant, which can be attributed to the damage to his car after he's got the damage, then he won't get in trouble for it, to be fair, as far as I'm aware, in the SBCT rulebook, the Skip Barbecue Trophy, that abbreviation should be for. But right now, he's got to keep it together. Arjun de Vries, meanwhile, on the outside here at turn number 3, trying to make up some ground lost earlier on. And right now, trying to get himself back into the top 10 if he can. On the inside, Mattock falls back there in the middle of the road and decides he doesn't want to be playing part of what is a 3-wide situation, as Daniel Atuga runs out very wide there. He's also struggling. I think the right-handers for Atuga really costing him the ability to get the cornerings done, in the fact that he does have that damage to what would be the rear left side, so therefore traction out of right-handers will hurt quite considerably, because these machines, of course, are rear-wheel drive, mid-engine, the engine being right behind the driver. But as Mattock and Atuga continue to fight, both in damaged cars, after that small incident that will be attributed to being a racing incident, essentially. But as they come up the hill and round through turn number 9 in towards 10, Gordon van den Bergen puts his way between the two of them. We've also got plenty of fighting going down and further back, as we do still have the fight, of course, on 19th all the way through to 24th. It may not be worth many points, but to these guys, it's going to feel pretty special in terms of how they fight each other. Oh, hold up a second. That's Renko Pleiss here. He's got major suspension damage. The rear left has entirely collapsed on Renko Pleiss's car. I'm not quite sure how that's happened, but it has happened. But meanwhile, with 17 seconds left on the clock, it's going to be Adam Miles making his way onto one more lap. The white flag waves. And now here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We've been waiting the best part of 19 and a half minutes for this. This is going to be the battle for the win between 4 cars. Randall, Hendrickson, Miles and Herrmann. And, well, Randall and Hendrickson are going too wide at the front. Herrmann and Miles are going too wide at the back. Remember, the 2 at the back are your championship contenders, your main championship contenders. The 2 at front, meanwhile, Jeff Randall is still within contention for a top 3 in the championship. Tim Hendrickson is further back chasing a top 10. So, therefore, right now, the 2 at front have got plenty of points to play for. Steff Herrmann gets a really good run out of 2. Miles, meanwhile, drifts wide down. A bit of an understeer has definitely unsettled the run. But Herrmann now 3 wide here as they come in towards the hairpin. Now, who's going to be on the inside? That's going to be Randall, but he loses momentum on that outside, so he switches back to the racing line. Meanwhile, Hendrickson going defensive. Steff Herrmann tries to go all the way round, and as they do, off camera, Chris Wayne's had an off track at turn number 2. That's dropped him out of the hunt for 19th place. He's fallen to the back of the group for 24th. And from them, well, meanwhile, we stay focused on what's happening on our camera right now. It's still Herrmann versus Hendrickson. These two now making themselves nice and wide. Adam Miles tries to fit into the group. But as we ride on board here with your 3rd place, man, well, look how close they are. They are literally almost touching wheels and bodywork there. As I think Miles briefly touches his front wing onto the rear tyres of Hendrickson's car. Coming over the rise here, Jeff Randall is inside. And Miles just trying to make sure he's got the inside of the hairpin. But remember, go too wide and there's going to be a lot of dirt there. So Miles backs off and he decides, right, I'm going to need the mother of all runs here, coming all the way out to the hairpin. He's going to go nice and tight to the apex, but it's not the best of runs from Hendrickson. That boxes Miles back, and now Miles has got to try and find a way for the switchback. Herrmann, meanwhile, has moved into lead, and for Steff Herrmann, this could be it. But there's only one big question, and there is a long drag race all the way to the finish line here. But as they come on around through the final quarter, it's Herrmann who leads. The checker flag begins to wave. Randall's behind him. Hendrickson fans out 3 wide. It's going to be a drag race to the line. The side draft there. Randall gets ahead as they come across the line. Who's it going to be? It's 4 wide at line, and in the end, I think Hendrickson's got it by 19 thousandths over to Jeff Randall. Adam Miles just sneaks out of Steff Herrmann for the 3rd place spot with Marcus Byfeldt in 5th. Then it's going to be Raphael Barber in 6th place ahead of Brian Kelly, with Nathan Wade coming home 8th ahead of Arjun DeVried. And then we do have Daniel Tuga 10th ahead of George Matuk, best the rest, with Gordon Vandenberg at 12th, Josephine Becker 13th, Clark Williams 14th, and Neil Bamber 15th place will be your pole sitter for the round 20 feature race. He parks up there saying hello to Gordon Vandenbergen. Dennis Johansson finished in 16th, just behind by 7/10 of a second. And then with Christopher Gerris Jr. in 17th ahead of Peter Sopanki, with Maximilian Simeons in 19th place ahead of Tom Payne and David Elliott 21st. But we've got a few more joints to come through, including none other than Pedro Manuel Cladera in the Good Smile Racing Machine, the tribute to the Hatsune Miku livery run by the GT World Challenge team. And as he comes across the line, he will be your last lead lap finisher in 27th place. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a race for our first of the day. Absolute scenes right at the finish, no doubt about it. And well, the great thing is, we do now have a brief warm-up period in which we can walk you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are for round number 19, race number 1, of course, of the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit in Season 5 of the Skip Barber Community Trophy, sponsored by Musical Money and Old Git Racing Team. And after 20 minutes of incredible racing, look at that. A 10th separating your top 5 at line. They fanned out 5 wide, and Tim Hendrickson got it spot on, the Dutchman, to take the win in the number 28 by only 8 thousandths over Jeff Randall. The Old Git Racing Team driver there, runner-up, not taking his first win of the season just yet, but his best result of the season, a 2nd place, ahead of Adam Miles, who took 3rd place. On paper, it doesn't sound great until you consider the fact he did beat his championship rival and the leader of the championship, of Steff Herrmann, who finished in 4th. The German driver then followed up by Marcus Byfeldt, who finished in 5th there, and the Swede just ahead of Raphael Barber, who on his debut, 6th place on his debut. That is nothing to be upset about. That was a great result from him, only 2 tenths from the leader at the line. He managed to stay ahead of Brian Kelly, who was a further 4 tenths back, and then it was Nathan Wade, who fell out of the lead group and formed the head of the 2nd group and held on to 8th place, with Arjun DeVried ahead of Daniel Tuga completing your top 10. George Mattock took 11th place there, best of the rest after a lot of fighting and a few lockups, but he was ahead of Gordon van den Bergen, who had a late error, and in the end both Atuga and Mattock surviving in their cars. Congratulations to them despite the critical damage, and they were able to see that finish line. Behind the stick-head racing machine of van den Bergen then, in 12th it was Josephine Becker, with Clark Williams and Neil Bamber completing that top 15, and Bamber of course taking pole position in your next race. Dennis Johansson, Christopher Geros Jr., Peter Suapanki, Maximilian Simeons, and Tom Payne completed your top 20, and outside the top 20 it was none other than David Elliott ahead of Simon Wareham, with Noel Ritchie Robertson, Chris Wayne, Joshua Harley, Marcel de Hint and Pedro Manuel Cordera completing your finishers. 2 laps down as Renko Pleisier, and then James McRitchie and Roddy van der Maiden were unfortunately your retirees from our first race of the day. But of course, we also did have a non-start for Titus de Jong, sadly not able to make it onto grid due to a technical issue with the car. The Raging Turtle, a racing try in the end at 31st as classified, and no points coming his way either. But that was just race 1, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, your first race of the day here at the Phillip Island Circuit. And if that is not a spectacle, if that is not a reason why we absolutely love the Skip Barber QET Trophy and why we are massive fans of the Skip Barber Formula 2000 machine or the Skippy, I don't know what is going to sell it to you. Because coming up next, of course, is our 30-minute feature race. It'll be much like the sprint race you've just seen, albeit it has one extra conundrum, an all-important pit stop, and that is something all drivers are going to have to figure out how exactly do they navigate it. But as we do look to Gordon van den Bergen, as he makes his way on around, well, as we do say hello to a few of you there in the YouTube chat, including Benjamin Massey, who says Jeff Randall is doing well, and good evening to you, Ben. We also do say hello there to Talkie T, and, well, we do see him saying, with regards to Tim Hendrickson, that he promised he'd win this for me, and in the end, well, what we could see in the results, it was Tim Hendrickson who was able to bring it on home and bring home that win, and, well, what an incredible gap between them all, and we also do see AJ Miles out. Adam Miles saying my tap on the wall cost me the win, and we didn't quite catch that, but I do believe Adam Miles might have been quite close to the pit wall as they were coming to line, and that small tap would have just caused a little bit of abrasion and would have curbed his speed, make his way along. Remember, these machines, the tiniest of touches with walls or alternative with grass, etc., they will shave off speed, and they need every mile an hour in those situations. Unfortunate for Miles, but it was so close between them all, and definitely one of the big highlights of the season. 5 wide at the finish, and your top 5 separated by literally a 10th at the finish line. As Justin Noel says, that was a heck of a finish, and Justin, I 100% agree with you. And the wonderful thing is, we've got it all to do once again shortly, albeit with strategy thrown into the mix. What you've got to also think now is the fact that is going to really turn things upside down, because we've seen in every feature race this season that you want to pit and be around another car. When you do so, you need to pick up the draft to gain lap time. But here, how powerful the draft is. When do you exactly pit? Do you follow the leader into the pit lane? Do you pit and trigger off everyone else to come into the pit? That's going to be the intrigue here. We have seen, of course, other situations such as Adam Miles being able to rip and tear his way around Long Beach last time out in clear air and just show how much pace he had in qualifying translated into the race. He could try and do that again today. Other drivers could try and do it, but the slipstream around here definitely very powerful, and that is where it's going to be so intriguing, because to do well here in the feature race, you've got to be smart on strategy and find a slipstream partner to work with. As Tom Payne puts it backwards into the grass, well, ladies and gentlemen, let's put it forwards and into the stars we go. Without further ado, it is time for race number 2 here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix Circuit. It is time for the round 20 feature race. And so onto the grid, all of our drivers go once again, and with the top 15 inverted from race number 1, it is Titus de Jong who takes pole position for our second and final race of the day. He'll be joined on the front row. It's going to be an all-Dutch front row, with Roddy van der Maiden starting in second. Then we do have James McRitchie in third there, ahead of Renko Pleisier. With Pedro Manuel Cordera starting in 5th place, ahead of Marcel de Hint. And then we do have Joshua Harley and Chris Wayne on row number 4. Row 5, it's going to be Noel Ritchie Robinson ahead of Simon Wareham. And then we do have outside of this top 10, And David Elliott starting 11th ahead of Tom Payne. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not quite sure if this is the expected grid, to be fair. It seems as though we've got a fully inverted grid, and if so, there has been a bit of a technical fault with the lobby. But I think we're going to have to roll with it, and will that be sorted out by the administration afterwards? So in fact, we have had a full inversion of the grid. David Elliott starts 11th ahead of Tom Payne, with none other than Maximilian Simeons ahead of Peter Suapanki. And it's Christopher Garros Jr. ahead of Dennis Johansson, with Neil Bamber and Clark Williams completing your top 18. But we won't be joined any longer, because, ladies and gentlemen, the lights are going on, and well, for our second and final time today, it's going to be fire red lights, and it's lights out, and away we go here for our second and final race of the day. And as all drivers get on the way, well, it's been fully inverted by mistake, as section does say there, but all drivers away, albeit our pole sitter of Titus de Jong not started the race, unfortunately, due to a technical issue. And as they all make the way down, well, a full inversion is what it is, and they're going to have to race with it, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way through. But to be fair, this is going to add to even more of a spectacle here, and this is going to put everything on the line. But Roddy van der Meyden leads the field then in towards turn number 2, but already we can see a few drivers trying to make some progress. Cold tyres, muscled in, runs out wide. Also, Joshua Harley goes with, and that's going to go very wrong there, as we do see one of our machines. That's going to be Simeons, also being turned off. Brian Kelly's gone round. Several drivers have gone wrong at turn number 2, and it's absolute pandemonium here at the start of the race. Gordon van den Bergen's backwards in the rear of your picture. And well, with all of that, well, right now at the very front of the field, it's looking very peaceful by comparison. But as we do see James Ritchie getting ahead of Roddy van der Meyden going through the turn 4 hairpin. Uncle Blice and Maramon Cladera just following him right now. They'll be hoping to break away when they can. But further back, Simon Wareham here on the attack already. Josephine Beck and Raphael Bormer, meanwhile, they're going too wide in towards turn number 6. And Wareham going very deep there. That's going to put him 3 wide. Hold up a second. Somebody's gone to the gravel. That's Neil Bamber being ejected off screen. And there he is, the Marlboro livery machine. Make his way off the road in the 45. He gets himself restarted, but that's going to put him all the way to the back of the field. And well, as all these drivers weaving wind their way through, that's 3 wide coming through turn number 7. You don't do that in these machines. And as they come up the hill in towards turn number 9, well, right now, Steff Herrmann here definitely fights his way through. He's very eager, Steff Herrmann. As we see a drift wide there from Marcus Byfeldt. Cold tyres and dust on the circuit once again. Oh no! There's a car parked right in the middle of the road. That's head on. That's Jeff Randall straight into the stricken car of what was none other than, I believe, Maron Cadera, and it's all in pieces here at turn number 10. There's been drama at the start of this race on several occasions, and Pedro Maron Cadera right now definitely in absolute arrears. Well, we're going to get a replay of some of the big incidents in this opening lap of the race, but it's definitely been chaos, and well, understandably, when it goes right, it goes so very much right, but when it goes wrong, like with any open wheel series, it could go dramatically wrong as well. But everyone's surviving right now, and I'm sure a few drivers will definitely have a few words to say after the racing today, but still the roll with what they got. And James McRitchie, after 1 lap, has survived that opening lap, and right now drifting his way through turn 1 into 2. My goodness, they're driving the absolute limit, and well, I think you might want to call it down at the moment. I think a few drivers might want to calm things down, and we have lost as a result of the open lap confusion and chaos. George Mattox to the pit lane, Jeff Randall, Joshua Harley, also Maron Caldera, also Richie Robinson. They're the ones in the pit lane being repaired at the moment, and we've also had retirements of Dennis Johansson, Clark Williams and Titus de Jong. But on camera right now, we can see Red Cool Palace battling his way past James Ritchie and Roddy van der Meyden staying with them. But as I said, these 3 want to work together. As meanwhile, further back here, everyone has survived what happened towards the end of lap number 1. It's still trying to catch up to your top 3. And well, coming through that hairpin, Adam Miles on the inside there. Garros Jr. following Nathan Wade on through. Steff Herrmann not too far ahead of him right now. And well, as we do see Wade going defensive, Wade is missing the end tip of what is his front wing there. It's noticeable, it's fallen off. So I think he's been involved in a little bit of a scuffle. And well, wouldn't be surprised if all these cars are wearing battle scars at the moment, although not Adam Miles is intriguingly. And to be fair, I think Adam Miles has been able to avoid the chaos as best he possibly can. And the clean car's going to help him out, because right now Nathan Wade will be losing a couple of miles now on the longest of stretches in the tow compared to the other cars around him, given the damage to the front wing, and he will likely try to get that fixed when he comes in for his pit stop. But of course, that pit stop is a bit far away at the moment. It's going to be at least another 3 to 4 laps off into the distance normally. We'll have to wait and see when exactly that pit stop is going to arrive. So as soon as our drivers can pit, some of them may opt to pit immediately. Further back, Marcel de Hint make his way past Neil Bamber as he goes around the outside there. Bamber went wide at turn number 9, and de Hint meanwhile taking that place off him as quick as that. And David Elliott makes his way on through as Peter Suapanki in the damaged car makes way into the pit lane. That rear wing definitely not pointed straight, and I do wonder what exactly has befallen him, other than what might have been what happened right at the start of the race. But coming across that timing line, we have now got 4 wide here. One car's hidden by the timing tower, but we promise you it was Tim Hendrickson who was hidden by it. So that's Sergeant DeVries trying to go around the outside of Josephine Becker and Chris Wayne. And Wayne right now, well, on that inside line, playing it as safe as humanly possible, and deciding he just doesn't want to play a part in this. He wants to stay out of trouble. And I think that's smart driving there from the number 69 driver, to be fair. And Steff Herrmann and Marcus Byfeldt now queue up. We ride on board with the championship leader. He's had a bit of ground eroded on him by Miles after finishing behind him in race number 1, albeit only by a slender amount of points in coming in towards that hairpin. All right, now Steff Herrmann looking all the way around the outside here under braking. Of course, going around the outside is just as viable as the inside here. It's a flat corner, so normally you would be expected to lose out on that outside line. Then it sets you up for the inside of the next sequence of corners. It's not as bad as it would be at other circuits. But Herrmann right now still keeping Wayne at bay, as we can see De Vries trying to go all the way around Becker, and we're using the camber of the road there, does the Dutchman. This is going to work out nicely for him versus the German driver, as we'll go too wide now up the hill. Herrmann still does have the quotient of Marcus Byfeldt and Wayne behind. Now Herrmann tucks into the toe here of De Vries. The problem will be on the outside here for turn number 9. He won't want the car to drift too wide, so therefore he'll try and hug the side of the number 28, and that gives him just enough space now to cooperate coming down the hill. Meanwhile, Marcus Byfeldt trying to go around the outside. There's a big lock up there for the car in front. That was Tim Hendrickson locking up, and meanwhile going out wide. Oh, goodness me. Careful, Marcus. That's almost going round there if you run out that wide again. And we'll drop in the rear left tyre off the curb and onto the AstroTurf. It falls away from the curb, and that's why you did see the car snake around so aggressively. And if he'd gone any wider than that, I think Marcus Byfeldt would have completely gone around there, but thankfully not. But just showing you the fact that right now you've got to run it to the very limit of the circuit, but going beyond those limits, it is where dragons lie, essentially, and it all could go very wrong. As I come down towards that braking zone to turn number 1, well, it's going to be Adam Miles and Chris Wayne now exchanging glances, as Miles is going to try and go round the outside of the old Git Racing Team driver. And Miles here looking composed. Your season 1 champion, of course. Very happy with his performances so far, and still more to come here, I suspect, before the day is said and done. As we look back to Walsh Jr. here, still fighting with Wayne, trying to pick his way past now, and Chris Wayne being bullied by the field at this point, albeit fairly, although I don't know if there is such a case of fair bullying, but we're going to roll with that today as he comes on round the corner, and Wayne runs a little bit wide, and Brian Kelly follows in his footsteps, albeit as they come through the corner, Kelly does revert to that race line and stays where he is. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a look back at some of the big moments from the start of the race. And we start off, of course, with what exactly happened at turn number 2 for several drivers, including Noel Richie Robinson and Marcel de Him. So, Richie Robinson in this group, you're looking at the green machine there that steps wide, and just in front, we did have go roll for Joshua Harley. But what exactly went wrong there for the car ahead of them of Maximilian Simeons? This was the onboard from Simeons' perspective. So he found himself tucking at the inside there of Clark Williams. A lovely move. And as he came on through, I think he's going to get touched. Yes, he is. I think that was Payne's car. And he got sent on the path of Simon Wareham's machine. And that's what sent Simeons on around. And he tried to get it back together. And that's what led to the chaos that unfolded. We had this view for Nathan Wade, meanwhile. This was Wade even further back in the long line of cars. And, well, he's going to suddenly see things to start to go wrong now. And at this point, he snaps the car loose on itself and cuts to the grass there. Very well held by the Briton. And, well, that was avoiding Gordon Vandenbergen's car that had gone for a whole 360-degree spin. We then had this towards the end of lap number 1. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. This was Pedro Manuel Cladera making his way over the crest of turn number 9 in towards 10. The blimp camera picked this up, lost the rear of the car. Now, this in itself wasn't bad, but look where it's going to end up going. Oh my good lord, Jeff Johansson, being sent into the stratosphere. And in the end, well, Jeff Randall coming over the crest. He would never have seen that car there. He would have seen the yellows, but not known what to do. And it led to absolute disaster. And, well, completely understandable there. Very wrong for so many drivers. And, well, in terms of what exactly happened, this was the onboard from Joshua Harley's perspective. It was a lot further back in this group, but he will eventually come into it. And at this point, he'll see some smoke going up, but he won't realise. And there's Jeff Randall going head on into Manuel Caldera's car. And Harley tries to go around the outside. And then suddenly, the 696 there rolls its way back into the path. And it all ends up wrong. But what about Randall's perspective, I hear you ask? Well, this is what it would have looked like from on board Jeff Randall's car. And, well, for the 107 driver, viewer caution is advised here, ladies and gentlemen, because he's going to come over this hill. He will see nothing. He'll see some smoke, drifts as well. That does not help his case. And then suddenly, one of his cars in the middle of the road, his first fault will be, and his second fault will be, I need to dodge. But at that point, he's already used up his one fault, and unfortunately for the British driver, it's all gone wrong. But back to your live racing we go, and as we do, well, there's still more to come, no doubt about it, because we're back to your leaders, and well, those are the big moments for the opening lap. And since that, things have calmed down to a degree, going on to the further laps of this race. And we're coming towards the end of lap number 5, and it's James McRitchie right now who leads. As Richie does, well, Plosier, Van der Maiden and Hendrickson all with him, albeit we say that Tim Hendrickson is in fact trying to close up to him as he's trying to break away from the rest of the pack he's bringing along for the ride. Now, bearing in mind, of course, that we are coming toward the end of the opening 9 minutes, do we have anybody into the pits for strategy? We do. Raphael Bormer does come on in, but the Austrian driver here is one of only 2 drivers to go in. Nathan Wade is a bit further back. He comes in the best part of about 4 seconds behind. Now, that is not good news for either driver here because they have come in. They've opted to go for the undercut as far as they can, but they won't have anybody to work with. So I do wonder whether Bormer potentially actually backs off and lets Wade catch up to him so that they can work together in this, or whether they just go for his laps under their own volition. Of course, if they try to do it in clear air, if the field in front don't fight too hard, they will lose natural race time, and those laps will be at least half a second slower. But that is where now the gamble plays off. If everyone at the front fights, they suddenly gain time. If everyone in the front does not fight and plays what is friendly together, well, then it all works out the other way. But in the midst of the top 10 right now, well, things are definitely getting a little bit assertive here. And Steff Herrmann trying to make sure Josephine Becker does not get past him. And Adam Miles now is trying to make his way around the Studio Ghibli car. But will he be able to do so? The answer is not quite yet. And Becker, to be fair, she's doing a fantastic job in holding on to these positions and looking for another top 10. She's had some great results this season, particularly in the first half of the season. Hasn't been on the grid for the last couple of rounds, but good to see Becker back once again, doing what she does best, and that's really fighting for the top 10 spots. But coming over the rise, got a bit wide there. Miles will sneak up the inside. He won't hesitate to pull the trigger on that move. And well behind Brian Kelly and Christopher Garris Jr. watching on right now as Daniel Atuga now puts himself in the queue to make his way up past the number 28. But around through turn number 11 they go, sweeping the way to the next lap. And suddenly all the field is caught up to your leader. And Roddy van der Maiden and Remco Palacio at the front, albeit Palacio try to run away. Hermann's into the pit lane, so is Miles, so is Atuga. They all respond then. Oh, that goes wrong into the pit. There's contact. Well, we can't quite see what's happening, but we can see it in the end. And Atuga hits the rear of Miles' car. And I think that was in reaction to what Steff Herrmann going on the brakes early. It's drama into the pit lane as well. You could not make it up here today. What exactly happened? Here's a quick replay. And this was coming into the pits. Do we get a good angle here? We do, just about. And in the end, it looked as though there Steff Herrmann had gone onto the brakes a little bit earlier than Miles anticipated, and Daniel Atuga came in blazing hot. Can we get the onboard from Atuga's car? We can, and this is what it looked like as they came down. Let's just listen in. And in the end, well, you can see what all 3 drivers are doing. I think I need to slightly change my interpretation. I think all 3 drivers were trying to outbrake themselves to the limiter line. But in the end, Atuga in the double draft came in even hotter than Miles, who came in very close to the back of Herrmann. I think all of them there were trying to do what anybody does at a pit stop in these races, which is literally get to that pit limiter line and be on the speed limiter at the line. But unfortunately, with the draft of 2 cars behind off the back of Herrmann, it ended up in tears between them. And suddenly, well, Daniel Atuga's back out there, but he has dropped behind those who pitted before him, including none other than what is the machinery. Oh, I do believe Raphael Bormer, but Steff Herrmann, meanwhile, despite the damage to the rear of the car, where in fact he didn't really pick up any damage compared to Miles, well, Steff Herrmann's the biggest gainer of it. Well, Adam Miles, meanwhile, he's actually not come out too far behind, so he has been able to get himself back together, but definitely a lot of drama there. And, well, I think the driver who picked up the worst damage of the group was Atuga, funnily enough, because he had double the length for a pit stop, as meanwhile, James McRitchie is towed to the pit. But even more news in the pit lane. Tim Hendrickson comes down right now in the Shark machine as he makes wound through there with Smiles on the front wing. Is it going to be Smiles for him when he leaves the pit lane? Well, we'll have to see. As meanwhile, we do see Remco Palacio go on to lead a lap of the race again. Arjun de Vries with him. Roddy van der Maiden follows on through as well. But a lot of these drivers pitting early. They're all trying to offset the undercutters as de Vries goes up the inside here of Palacio. And right now, if these two want to play the game differently, they need to commit to the overcut. They need to stay out until the fuel tank starts to go dry. The logic now is that essentially by working together, if they can, they avoid relegating themselves to being caught up in the pack that's pitted. It sounds a little bit odd to suggest it, but the fact of the matter is, if you pit with that group, you are essentially going to be relegating yourself to fighting with that group for the remainder of the race, and it will be the shuffle from the sprint. So why not do something different is probably what they're thinking, and that is see if they can go to around 10 minutes remaining before they then come into the pits and just see whether that actually brings them more time out of the circuit and brings them ahead of that group. As right now, here's Brian Kelly ahead of Tim Hendrickson and Steff Herrmann. All these drivers have pitted, so these are your leaders strategy-wise right now. 7th place is the highest spot where we have seen a pit stop, whereas everybody else ahead has yet to pit. We bring that up on your graphic on the left-hand side of your screen, who's pitted and who's not. We'll keep that there for a little bit of time, but right now, Hendrickson leading this group on through, and understandably, he's now got to try and discipline the troops behind him. The fact he's got to essentially become friends with Kelly and Herrmann and say to them, look, we need to focus on our race in chasing down the leaders. After that, we can fight for the rest of the race. But right now, we cannot afford to fight. Of course, all these drivers, they're so used to racing this format. They know how to run the feature race. They know the fact that you have to work together here. And it's the classic saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And who right now wants to play friend and who wants to play enemies? That is the question. As we have a black flag for Daniel Tuga, that's for instant points. And I suspect his contact with Adam Miles definitely will have added to that significantly. And Daniel Tuga has made his way into pit lane for what will be that drive-through penalty. But players here, Van der Weyden, Walsh Jr. and Byfeldt all wins the pit, so De Vries has been left to his own device at the very front of the field, so he is your only driver now, excluding Neil Barber. In fact, Neil Barber has not come in, so he's staying out as well. Otherwise, everyone else will have pitted come the end of lap number 8. So only 2 cars now need to make their pit stops. And, well, where exactly does this put everyone? Tim Hendrickson making his way down the start for the straight. There's your blimp camera. You can see his group of 3 there coming out the pit lane. They are small specks, relatively so. But let's look to the closer cameras now. And as they do come through, well, Kelly Hendrickson and Herrmann do get ahead of Remco Pleisier, who leads Van der Weyden and Byfeldt and Walsh Jr. out the pit lane. So in the end, Kelly Hendrickson and Herrmann have gained through the undercut as Adam Miles sets the fastest lap of the race here. Going around the outside of both Becker and Burma. Well, as he comes on around through turn 1, Adam Miles right now has got the bit between his teeth, and he knows his only target today, if nothing else, is to beat Steff Herrmann. And Herrmann right now up into 5th place. All these drivers, of course, starting much further down the order than they originally anticipated, but as they push on, well, still plenty more fighting to come, no doubt. And, well, we are only at the halfway point of this race. We've still got more to come here. Indeed, it's been a very dramatic time at Phillip Island, for mostly the right reasons, albeit some of them unintentional. But you can see there Miles, Burma and Becker now doing exactly what Hendrickson, Herrmann and Kelly were doing earlier on, which is working together here and trying to catch up to the next pack. And, well, if you're Burma or Becker, I get the feeling you're getting thinking, you know what, if you're behind the fastest man on circuit, let him do the hard work for you and just stay with him. You may even learn a thing or two by watching what he does compared to you. But going onwards, well, De Vries still staying out. Does not duck into the pit lane. What about Neil Barber? Does he decide to? He's a bit further back here in the Honda-sponsored machine and run his way on through there. A tribute, of course, the MP44 liveried McLaren and the McLaren Hondas of those years, the legendary years of McLaren and the Honda partnership. Perhaps not as legendary in its later revival form in the 2010s. And indeed, Honda right now not struggling, not having the best of times in Formula 1 with what is the Aston Martin team either. But as Neil Barber makes his way on past right now, he won't be thinking about the difficulties of the modern day. He'll be trying to channel the successes of the old times here, thinking that he can do his best Ayrton Senna impression. But as Tim Hendrickson makes his way across that line, well, right now Hendrickson pushing forward. Lap times for Hendrickson, well, coming across that timing line as we do see Steff Herrmann side draft his way on past. Herrmann a 46.47, Hendrickson a 46.72 personal best, De Vries a 47.28. So they are gaining 8 tenths a lap right now on the leader. That is the power of the draft, and that is why they've gone for this strategy of working together as a group of 3. And Brian Kelly here is just tucked in for the ride, and it is working out for him a treat with 3 seconds to Remco Pleisier, who is bringing Marcus Byfeldt, Roddy van der Weyden and Christopher Gerrits Jr. with him. And Rafael Burma right now working with Adam Miles to try and get that little bit closer to that next group. But these drivers all right now knowing what's at stake and the fact they can't afford to play any more games other than to work together for as long as they need to. And Miles here making his way back to the inside into that braking zone for turn number 4. Further down the order, we do have a bit of fighting for 14th place between Suapanki, Elliott and Wareham. We believe this is the group that potentially will be the home to Neil Barber once he's made his pit stop, although don't quote us on that. It's rough to work out the times at the moment, but as we do have De Vries make his way on around again, so De Vries decides not to pit. In fact, yes, he does come into the pits there, and well, De Vries has decided enough's enough, and I wonder if Neil Barber's going to do the same very shortly. He's currently leaving turn number 10 and in towards 11, so we'll get you an update on that when we can, folks. But meanwhile, Elliott, Suapanki and Wareham together, and these 3 starting to spread a little bit, but I suspect it's more about the fighting now than anything else. But as we see Neil Barber coming around, Barber is going to go on to lead a lap of the race. He's decided he wants to at least have one moment where he leads a lap this season. And well, who could blame him for it? He's going to carry on as Arjen De Vries starts to leave his pit stall. Where's Hendrickson? Here is Hendrickson. I think he's going to easily make his way on past his fellow countryman. Although saying that, in fact, Arjun de Vries is now building up speed here. And well, there goes Hendrickson, there goes Herrmann and Kelly. He's not too far back, in fact, but he's in a bit of a no man's land here. As we were behind, that's Byfeldt, Van der Meyden and Prix together. And well, it's going to be Roddy Van der Meyden who moves ahead with Marcus Byfeldt tucking to the outside. But Arjun de Vries is 1.5 seconds ahead of this group, but he is 2.5 seconds behind the next group. So it's a bit of an odd situation for Arjun de Vries in the fact that he has come out in no man's land. He's got nobody to work with. And well, if I was a gambling man, I would say he's going to let himself be caught up by the guys behind so he can move forward with them. That would be the play here if he wants to build up the time. But of course, it's a gamble because the bigger you make that pack, the more you can be swallowed up by it. And of course, there's no guarantee that that pack is going to work together effectively, even though on paper they should. But 20 minutes are almost completed this race. Another 10 plus the final lap to go. And right now you can see there Phillip and Adam Miles. They are moving closer and closer. So that group of run inching forward at the best part of 2 attempts a lap. They're almost there to make what is currently a 4-car pack, a 7-car pack for what is 6th place. But Neil Barber carrying on at the front of the field. He's going to fall behind this group, we believe, once he serves his pit stops. Here's your effective leader of the race right now, Tim Hendrickson, running in second. Albeit Hendrickson definitely, I think, realising right now the lead is not guaranteed until literally the finish line, as we saw in race number 1. And therefore nothing can be counted on until it's all said and done. And Herrmann and Kelly hoping the same here. But it's all about working together. But Neil Barber does come off the racing line, pulls into the pit lane, and his time at the front is now complete, ladies and gentlemen. So he will lead 1 lap of the race. And Neil Barber will now release the lead back to Tim Hendrickson, who goes on then with 9.5 minutes left. He's going to do battle here with Herrmann and Kelly, but a smart man would expect that these three work together until that final lap, but will they want to work together here? For Steff Herrmann, he needs the win. He wants to try and push that championship lead out of arm's reach for Adam Miles as much as he can. He can't win the championship today if he wins this race. Indeed, we will still be going to what will be the final 4 rounds in a week's time at Oran Park. We've got another 2 rounds, and then of course it's Bathurst in the season finale. But if Herrmann can beat Miles in this one, and Adam Miles is down in 9th at the moment, then Steff Herrmann will be gaining some ground, and he could potentially seal the deal next time out at Oran Park Raceway. But Tim Hendrickson, of course, has other ideas. He would just like a win today. Brian Kelly as well. How long has it been since we've seen Brian Kelly on the podium? And well, you've got to go back several weeks for that right now. He will also fancy an opportunity here to take his win. He hasn't had a win in some time this season. Oh, he has picked up 1. So therefore, there's plenty of intrigue and subplots here, which all need to be considered. But looking to Christopher Gerrish Jr. lead in the pack of 4 of himself, Byfeldt, Plysett and Van der Meyden, and Raphael Barber is now only a second off of this group. There he is, with Adam Miles still working with him. This group is almost together, but then they do have 1.2 seconds to Arjun de Vries, and then it's a further 3.5 seconds to the top 3. That's going to be the hardest gap to close down. And well, the absolute pandemonium that has played out here today definitely has been a big factor of it. And well, we do have a few drivers who've made their way back out of the pits after the big shunts on the opening lap. We do have Jeff Randall out there, as we do have Peter Suapanki, and also Joshua Harley, Maron Cladera and Richie Robinson. They've all returned to the racing, which is wonderful to see. Unfortunately for Daniel Ortuga, it's all gone wrong. The car's in the pit lane being repaired, and I don't think it's going back out. And nor are we going to see none other. And then what is James McRitchie back out there again after a big incident earlier on. But across the line, these drivers go. Another 8 minutes left of the clock here. The fighting right now for 5th place, building tremendously so, as George Mataka's come into the pit lane. And that, I do believe, is for his one and only strategic stop as well. In fact, now he's into the pits once again. I suspect this is for his second stop, because he was involved in the early instance, to be fair to me. He has no black flag, so therefore he's got to go for a splash and dash after getting the car repaired at the start. So that's unfortunate for him. That means he releases some places to other drivers. Your leader is Steff Herrmann, only a 10th of a second ahead of Brian Kelly, but most prominently there, letting the lead back to Hendrickson and Arjun de Vries. Still trying to run away for the group behind, but he is being gradually reeled in. You could almost imagine that right now Marcus Byfeldt and Renko Plysett both got fishing rods in their cars, and they're trying to reel this man in, but he's not taking the bait. But as we can see, what is all the fanning out there, Adam Miles on the inside of Roddy Van der Meyden, and Raphael Barber comes through with him. So Van der Meyden gets it very wrong then to the hairpin, drops 2 places, almost drops off the road as well. He'll be on the inside of the Austrian driver coming around the corner, but that's not going to work. And instead he's going to have to wait now as Josephine Becker meanwhile tries to also get into the fight. We ride on board here with your number 28, and looking around the outside here, coming up the rise, and well, it's going to be a smooth move all the way on through, and now coming over the hilltop. Well, you can see there the fact that Van der Meyden, it does back off. He does not decide to try and force it too wide all the way through there. It's not going to work to his advantage. As all the top 10 make their way towards the end of this lap, we look back to Van den Bergen and George Mattock. Here is George Mattock firstly, and he's got some company to play with in the form of Marcel de Hint. So your gold and white machine of Marcel de Hint, whilst the fact he did end up in the green earlier on. Right now he's back out there looking to go forward, and George Mattock right in front of him. So I suspect his game plan now is going to be to get into the toe of the number 17 and see if he can put his hands on that 19th place. As Tom Payne as well, he has Gordon van den Bergen for company. Both of these drivers, of course, being caught up in the drama early on, but still surviving. As we have a new fastest lap of the race from Adam Miles, a 45.533. That is an absolute monster of a lap. And to put that in perspective, nobody else in this race has done a 45 at all. So he is right now, in terms of that fastest lap, he is 7 tenths faster than the next fastest set by Marcus Byfeldt, a 46.17. Adam Miles, I don't know where he finds all this time from, and I suspect it has been helped by the slipstream, but he finds a way to get that fastest lap. And remember, he has the most bonus points of anybody this season in terms of clean races, fastest laps, pole positions, you name it. He has been soaking up those points like a sponge. But as he comes on through the hairpin, well, De Reed has been reeled in, and Miles immediately inside of both De Reed and Byfeldt there. Now, can he get this done? Can he move into the head of this group? And can he really say to them all right now, look, guys, stop fighting me. I know you want to fight, but I've got other aspirations and I can take us up towards the top 3. Well, the problem is when there's almost a 5-second gap to Brian Kelly right now, can he realistically bring that gap down in time? And I suspect the answer is going to be no. And I think for Adam Miles, 4th place is the furthest he goes in this one. And therefore now he's got to try and make sure he doesn't get passed by any of the group. As we look back from the rear of Miles' car here and trying to tame the pack as they come down the hill. And well, that's going to be Byfeldt going defensive there versus Arjun De Vries as they come out and over the rise of 11. But right now Adam Miles has come all the way from 29th place after finishing 3rd in race number 1. And well, the work he's done has been absolutely impressive. But he's still got more work to do here if he wants to finish the first spot off the podium and also minimise the points he loses to Steff Herrmann, currently 2nd, but Herrmann still within touching distance of the win where Miles is not. But here we go down the straight and now on to lap number 15, and as they come on across the line, well, Marcus Byfeldt there will swap to the outside. And meanwhile, here comes Rafael Baumel and also Arjun De Vries. And well, they all fan out. And it's going to be the Austrian driver at the inside car going slow there. That's a lap down machine of none other than, I do believe, Noel Richie Robinson getting out the way because of blue flags. Good awareness from him, to be fair. Credit where it's due. It's not easy to do it. And as these drivers coming around through turn number 2, well, right now, Miles side by side here with Rafael Baumel. And remembering, of course, debutant on the right to him right now in the number 12. He's got nothing to lose. But to be fair, he's not here to throw a spanner in the works for anybody, including the championship contenders. But when you are a driver who's joined the championship late on in the season, you do have a little bit of what is that open eye perspective whereby you're here to just see how you stack up against your rivals and to have fun, but of course you don't want to intervene in what could be the big championship fight. But you've got the right to fight for those points every step of the way. Arjun De Vries then looking now to attack Miles here, coming in towards turn 6, but on that outside that's not going to work, and Rico Plyce will try and get on the inside of him. Meanwhile, as they all fan back into a line, we come back to your top 3. And well, that gap there of 5 seconds so pronounced over that hill where you just saw the heads of Marcus Byfeldt's car coming over the rise in the background. But Hendrickson, Herrmann and Kelly, they seem to be stationary right now in terms of the fact that these 3 have been in this order for the best part of the last 4 laps. And the gap is gradually opening in the favour of Tim Hendrickson with what is this lap plus another 2 to go if my mental mathematics is correct. But as Herrmann continues to watch on, of course, for Steff Herrmann, he doesn't need to win this race. All he needs to do is finish ahead of Miles to make up for what happened in the sprint race. It says where he finished 1 place behind, but with the fact he finished 2nd to Miles finishing in a maximum of 4th place right now, it would be advantage Herrmann going into the final 4 rounds. And that's what he's got on his side. But of course, drop scores will become an increasing factor as here comes Adam Miles using the side draft and the double toe to make his way back up into 4th place here. But this is going on to the penultimate lap. The next one's the most important one. But it's all about positioning here and getting as much information as he can going on to that final lap as to how strong the toe is and how everyone's potentially going to react to one another when he does lead this long pack of 8 cars on a round. 4th all the way through it to 10th there, Josephine Becker. And these drivers right now definitely itching for the fight on the final lap. They're getting themselves geared up to it. Roddy van der Maiden's fallen away from the group, and you can see him there back in 11th place. As we also do see the damage-stricken car there of Noel Richie Robertson a little bit further back. But of course it has been repaired since we saw it all damaged, and he's still carrying on here, and good on him for carrying on in 24th place. Simon Wareham fighting hard with David Elliott. They're fighting over some precious points for 14th place as they're going to be 2 wide, getting ready to go in towards the left-hander turn 3. Wareham here in the Leyland machine, battling with the Irishman of Elliott. And coming down onto the brakes right now. Simon Wareham on that inside of the hairpin, but a very tight line. What's going to be between the two of them? In the end, it's going to be very little, but Simon Wareham will hold that place at least for now. But back to the front of the race. Hendrickson, 6 tenths coming over the rise and in towards the second hairpin ahead of Herrmann and Kelly. In fact, almost 8 tenths there into that braking zone. Concertina effect, of course, a factor, but the point being that Tim Hendrickson right now seems to be quite in control of this, and if anything, I think Steff Herrmann right now is perhaps just backing off a little bit. Is he having to save some fuel, Steff Herrmann, in order to be able to guarantee and get to the end here, going on to the 17th and final lap? It will only be 17 laps. We are only a minute away from the checkered flag being called, so therefore white flag will be out. Next time around, it will be the black and white, and as they come on down here, well, right now, Tim Hendrickson pulls aside, weaving his way across the line. Does he think he's won the race already? If so, well, this race isn't over yet for Tim Hendrickson, and in the middle of the road, well, Brian Kelly comes on through, and Steff Herrmann backs off there. So I wonder whether Hendrickson thought the race was over, or alternatively, was that intentionally to try and shred some speed off the car, but really, in the end, not the most predictable way of doing it, to be fair. Bit of an odd one, but I think he might have got ahead of himself there. That's my only guess. So Brian Kelly takes the lead of this race right now. Can Kelly hold on for it's the first win of the season in a long time for him? Albeit he has picked up wins, but you'd have to go all the way back to the opening 8 rounds of the season for his last win. Meanwhile, in the fight for 12th, it's Byfeldt ahead of Barber, Miles, De Vries, Gerrits Jr., Becker and Prix right now. They're all together, and Adam Miles knows he's got to do something inventive. But here he comes up the inside. He's going to squeeze around in versus the number 12. And as they come out the corner, well, that's going to be one place taken there from Miles, surely. As Byfeldt goes a little bit wide, but Bomber is back on the inside now as they come over the crest to turn number 6 and around for the camber corner, and Miles tucking back in. So therefore it's not going to be as straightforward and done as he thought it might be. But rocking the way up the hill, they're all going to be lying astern at least for now before the next braking zone, which will be the hairpin. Back to your leaders. Well, Brian Kelly right now has got Hendrickson absolutely breathing down his neck as they come over the crest and go down into the brakes, but no change between them at least for now. I think it's going to be all about positioning for Hendrickson going on to the start-finish straight. Bomber defending to the inside of Miles, who tries to go all the way around the outside here. That'll put him on the inside of 11. That's a good place to be for Miles now. That's going to give him more momentum coming on through. And he'll have the draft there of Byfeldt to help him out. But meanwhile, for Brian Kelly, well, much like in race number 1, it's going to be a drag race to the line here. Can Kelly get it done? Or will Tim Hendrickson be able to slice his way past? Well, in the draft and the side toe, Tim Hendrickson's going to get ahead. Kelly tries to come back here. The checkered flag waves. And in the end, it is going to be Tim Hendrickson who takes the win, making it back-to-back wins ahead of Brian Kelly. Steff Herrmann is third. Adam Miles, meanwhile, just creeps ahead there for 4th place, ahead of Raphael Barber, with Marcus Byfeldt in 6th, ahead of Christopher Gerrits Jr. Arjun De Vries is 8th, ahead of Josephine Becker, and then Remco Pleister completes your top 10. Roddy van der Meijden takes 11th off the road there, with Nathan Wade in 12th, just ahead of Chris Wayne, and then we will have Simon Wareham and David Elliott completed their races in 14th and 15th. Wareham just outpacing Elliott to the line, and then it will be Neil Bamber a further 2 seconds behind you, and sitting there in the rear of the picture coming off row, and it's a further 11 seconds back to Tom Payne, who takes 17th place, but he is 8 seconds ahead of George Matuk, who comes on through to take 18th in what has been a challenging day today for the number 17 driver. And it's going to be Gordon van den Bergen, who just loses out to Marcel de Hint. I think van den Bergen's run out of fuel towards the finish line, so de Hint gets one more place right at the end. And then we will see Peter Suapanki coming home in 21st, ahead of Joshua Harley, who in the end finishes 22nd. He finishes what he starts, and he does exactly that in 22nd and the 57. And then we will see Jeff Randall, well, after that absolutely catastrophic moment coming down to this corner where he went head-on into the turned-around car of Pedro Manuel Cadera, well, to be fair, I think that would have scared even the most stable of veterans. And, of course, Jeff Randall has been here since the very start of this series, all those many 4 years ago. And, well, right now for Jeff Randall, I think he's seen everything, and then he's seen something else today. But, to be fair, he's brought it on home, and he's going to finish on a high there as he gives us a little bit of a wave of the rear of the car coming out the final quarter. And, well, he's enjoyed himself all the same, even if this result doesn't reflect what he's been able to do as he spins it across the line there, and in the end gets it pointed back in a straight line. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, as he calls them down, and indeed all of our drivers call them down, well, we are just going to take a quick look back at how the race ended for what was your winners, but also for the fight for 3rd place. Was these were your leaders, of course, coming across the line, and in the end it was the drag race between Hendrickson and Kelly, with Herrmann a bit further back. We caught that, but what about the fight for 4th? And what Adam Miles in the end was car number 2 in this running order, tucked into the toe there of Marcus Byfeldt, and in the end, in the 3 wide, he timed it to perfection, and just by a nose, managed to take that 4th place off of Byfeldt, and Raphael Bulmer came through for 5th ahead of Byfeldt as well. So brilliant strategic time there for Adam Miles, and that explains how the second pack finished their race. And what to bring you that because, of course, we had to focus on the winners right at the end, but we always like to see how the top 10 all finish, if not the entire field. But with that, as we head back to your live circuit side pictures, well, we owe you some post-round race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And if race number 1 was really the entree, then we had an absolute feast of racing action in race number 2, albeit we had a few too many sides as well, the drama on the open lap being said sides. But in the end, with also a fully reversed grid, a bit of an error there by the administration, but I'm sure it'll be looked at for next time so it doesn't happen again. Of course, errors happen, but that's what we do here at the Skip Barber Community Trophy. We roll with the racing and enjoy the Skippy all the same. Tim Hendrickson taking the win by 25 thousandths in the end, ahead of Brian Kelly, who just missed out on returning to the top step of the podium, but a return to second. The American driver will be absolutely pleased as punch with that. Steff Herrmann took third, and the German driver 9. It wasn't a win today, however, another podium and a championship crown gradually inches his way yet to become a champion, but could this be the season where he gets it done? Adam Miles sits fourth there, the British driver, ahead of Raphael Burmer, with the Austrian driver in the number 12, enjoying a brilliant debut and some fantastic racing, and Marcus Byfeldt in 6th place there, just behind the Swede, missing out on the 4th place spot. Relegated out of the top 5, and then almost relegated behind his fellow countryman of Christopher Gerrish Jr. Arjen de Vries finishing in 8th place there. The Dutchman just ahead of Josephine Becker, who pushed hard, but towards the end lost out in the slipstream and was still ahead of Remco Pleiss, who completed your top 10. From the Raging Turtle racing at 117, it was then a further 6 seconds back to Rody van der Meijden as best the rest in 11th, with the Dutchman ahead of the two Britons, Nathan Wade and Chris Wayne. And then the Old Kit Racing team driver in 13th was 7 seconds clear of Simon Wareham and David Elliott, who enjoyed a brilliant battle all the way to the very end, but it was Wayne, Wareham and Elliott who completed that top 15. Neil Bamber, 16th place on the road in the end, couldn't quite catch up to the top 15, but he came close, ahead of Tom Payne by the best part of 11 seconds. And then we see George Mattock, Marcel de Hint and Gordon van den Bergen complete the top 20, with van den Bergen running low on fuel at the finish line, and therefore losing the place to Marcel de Hint with only metres to spare. Then it was in at 21st, we saw Peter Suapanki for the Old Git Racing team ahead of Joshua Harley, and then Jeff Randall was your last lead lap finisher there after the open lap incident. He took 23rd place. It was a lap down to Noah Richie Robertson, and we did have a premature retirement but classified as a finisher for Pedro Mamon Cordera, and behind the Spaniard we did have a full list of retirees of James McRitchie, Daniel Atuga, Maximilian Simeons, Dennis Johansson, Titus de Jong, and also there none other than Clark Williams. All of them, of course, being caught up in that opening lap incident. It all ended up in tears. But, ladies and gentlemen, that has been your second race a day, and the circuit of Phillip Island falls silent. Our broadcast is also going to fall silent for a brief moment or two, but we'll be back in approximately 5 minutes' time to hear from some of our drivers and hear their thoughts on the brilliant racing action we've seen today for rounds 19 and 20. But who exactly are we going to speak to? We'll find out very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. Give us 5 minutes, and we'll be right back with you. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And we're going to kick off by speaking to a man who's definitely been away from the podium for some time, but he's found his way back onto it today in the feature race, because joining me now in the interview room is none other than Brian Kelly. Good afternoon to you, Brian, and well, it's been some time since we had the pleasure of catching up with yourself, and it's been some time since we've seen you on the podium, but in the sprint race you fell slightly short, but in the feature, second place in the end. You must be happy with today's results.
Yeah, with Tim and Steff up there, I was happy with just making one place forward. My fuel calculator is actually showing me that I wasn't going to finish the race, so I was trying to fuel save as much as I could after I came out of the pit. But yeah, I'm really happy with how that second race went.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it might have been close on fuel, but you made the magic happen. But dialing it all the way back to qualifying, 13th in our one-lap shootout. Now, we know that you've normally qualified inside the top 10 or even the top 5 on a regular basis. What happened in qualifying?
Yeah, it was really the first corner is where I messed up. I went in a little too hot, and then I just lost a lot of exit speed there. At that point, I think my tires just weren't, I didn't warm them up correctly, or maybe they were a little overheated, but yeah, I just couldn't put together a really good lap I was happy with after that. So I was disappointed with my qualifying. I felt like I could have been a little faster, but there's a lot of big names that were qualified right next to me, so I wasn't too worried about where I was.
Oh, indeed. That's one of the magical things, of course, about the one-lap shootout is if people get it wrong, even the very best can be all the way down the field. And in the sprint race that followed, we did see what was a field that really did not break apart. And at certain points, the top 10, top 11 separated by no more than 3 seconds. And you tried to make your way forward in it, but seemed to always be relegated backwards. How was it for you?
Yeah, this is these tracks where the draft is such a factor. I really struggle with because you need to like work together really if you break apart from that lead pack. So I think it was Nathan and I can't remember who else was around me. There's an orange car, but yeah, we ended up going 3 wide into turn 1 a couple times, and you just can't catch the lead pack doing that. So it's a bit unfortunate. We couldn't work together a little bit. At one point, I was able to break away from that pack though. I think the lead pack must have had some sort of incident where 2 cars that were pretty fast sort of broke off, and I was able to kind of catch up to them and leave the pack that I was. I was really fortunate to be just in that sweet spot where the people behind me couldn't catch up as much as I was catching up ahead. So sprint race, it's tough with a track like this. So I'm really happy with a 7 considering where I started.
Oh, indeed, a very happy result to be proud of. And going into our second race, of course, normally it would be a top 15 inverted, but through some clerical issue, which I'm sure we're going to look into, we're not quite sure what exactly happened. You end up started all the way back in, I think if my memory serves me correctly, 25th place. I mean, when you discovered that you're all the way back, was there an initial reaction from yourself at all?
I did hear an announcement beforehand. It kind of took me by surprise when I heard that, but I kind of was expecting that. But yeah, it was certainly chaotic in that first lap or two. There's a couple spins where it was right. There is one, I think Jeff Randall was right next to me. We came over the crest of a hill, and there's just a car in the middle of the track. I was lucky enough to miss it, but I think Jeff took the brunt of it. So yeah, a little bit more chaos this race than some of the other ones with the inverted 15. But yeah, I was really happy with just being able to fuel save right away. I was figuring if I could make up time in the pits, that would probably be my best shot to come out near the front. I know Adam pitted earlier than me, and I figured he was probably going to fuel save too. So I was really surprised he didn't come out in the lead pack there.
Well, a bit of a surprise, but in the end, what we did get to see from yourself, even with the fuel saving playing a factor, was you were able to stay with the lead free group, which was yourself, Tim Hendrickson, and also Steff Herrmann. And coming towards the end of the race, we did see a bit of an interesting moment going on to the final lap, where it seems though Tim Hendrickson, I don't know if he was celebrating a lap early or whether it was the fact that perhaps he was trying to give the lead to you. I don't know how you interpreted it, but you found yourself leading going onto the final lap.
Yeah, once I saw that, I kind of figured he was trying to get Steff and I to pass, trying to set up for a final lap. Just because I think in the heat race, the person leading got shuffled back pretty far. So I think that was Tim just setting himself up for a really good run on the final straight, which he got. But yeah, I was a little surprised to see that, but I'm happy it didn't end up with anybody crashing.
Well, indeed, it's good that we got to see all three of you come to the finish, and a very close finish, much like in race number 1. And it means for yourself a return to the podium as well, where it's been some time since we've seen you on the podium. So it shows no matter how long it takes, we do get to see you back up there. Enjoy yourself eventually. Now, 2 rounds remain. Next up, Oran Park. How are you feeling for the trip to the circuit that's no longer with us?
Yeah, I'm a fan of that track as well. There's a lot of great tracks this season, so I'm really happy with the track selection we have in this league. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm not exactly sure where I stand points-wise with drop weeks and stuff. I know Daniel Otuga, he was just on a tear with a bunch of wins in a row. I know Adam was consistently getting top 3s. So yeah, I don't know where I stand in the points, but I'm just going to try to get a couple more podiums if I can, and then see where that shakes out.
Well, fair play. More podiums are the target, and I think a very sensible choice. You're still well within the hunt of at least a top 10. I think that's guaranteed at this point, but definitely still within hunting distance of a top 5 in the season standings. Just as we get ready to let you go, Brian, a question for you, a bit different from in terms of giving people a shout out today. I do have to ask if there's one thing, if somebody new to Skippies was going to learn some more about racing the car, what would it be?
I think it's really a car where it's about patience. It's really easy to go a little too crazy with the slip angles. So yeah, really learning to stay on the brakes and keep the weight near the front. That's huge because yeah, this is such a momentum car, and trail braking is so important. I think this is probably one of the best cars to learn it, to be honest. So yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about equipment and trying to upgrade their wheel. I would say just make sure you have a good set of brakes and get used to that trail braking.
All fair play, all in the breaks there. Love to hear your perspective on it. Brian, we'll leave it there. Congratulations today on a double top 10, including a return to the podium with second in the feature. We'll see you at Oran Park to see if you can continue your run of form and make it further podiums. But until then, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Paul.
So here now, ladies and gentlemen, from a happy Brian Kelly, jubilant with his performances today. And he's had a few interviews this season, some of them happy, some of them perhaps not as happy. But today you could definitely feel that we've got the Brian Kelly back that we all know and love and seen him right up there. And that's not to say we don't want to support him on a difficult day, but definitely he's had a run of form that has been weaving up and down, but he's gone from a trough to not a peak, but he's on the rise right now. And well, talking about then qualifying, the 13th place in itself wasn't great news, but when he saw the fact that some big names around him had qualified poorly, it actually gave him some confidence. And in the sprint race, we'll definitely find, and in the pack he was in, everyone was waiting to go 3 wide into the opening corners, and it wasn't conducive to getting into the lead group. But still, a 7th place, happy with that. And when he found out the fact that we were going to be seeing a full inversion of the grid, well, that completely changed the entire nature of the final race of the day, albeit was able to survive where it went wrong for Jeff Randall coming down in towards turn number 11 on the open lap, and then after that put it all together with some fuel saving and made sure to stay in the lead trio. Missed out at the very end on the win, but it was always going to be the way if he was the lead car on the final run to the finish line, but happy with second and targeting podiums at Oran Park Raceway. Brian Kelly is definitely a man on a mission to move forward. But with that, ladies and gents, we've got more interviews to come. Up next, well, we'll reveal very shortly who we've got when we come back. And so, ladies and gentlemen, now joining me in the interview room is none other than debutant for today. It is Raphael Barber who joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Raphael. And, well, what a way to make your debut in Season 5. Almost a double top 5 and right in the thick of the fighting.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't go as planned, to be honest, because I can be, like, much further ahead. Like, like, many crashes, and especially the one lap quali, like, I didn't know it was there, and then I was like overwhelmed when like, oh, one lap. I'm always so bad at like a one-shot quali, and I'm always getting like my best lap at lap 2 or 3, and it was like really chaotic. But I hoped for more, like a top 3 at least. But of course, the next race will go better.
Oh, fair play. I mean, like you say, being caught out there by the one-lap shootout in qualifying, but we have different qualifying sessions every week, so it does mix things up and catch drivers out. But 7th place start, knowing you could go quicker, and in the sprint race, we definitely saw you fighting not just for a top 5, but also fighting for the win at some points.
Yeah, I mean, in the sprint race, you know, like it's down like it's more, I think, more luck, especially on this track, because it was more like crash karting, and like there were drivers just going into every gap, and then like I lost like the 8/10 gap to, like, I think it was Adam, and then we were like 2 seconds behind, and then there was I mean, we were catching up, and I was like faster, but then again, like fighting and losing out to the front, and that was just a bit frustrating because I know that from like my past, I was like also like fighting every corner and things, and like now I'm like more like let's go ahead and try work together, and like in Skippy you just have to fight in the last lap because it's all down to slipstream, especially here.
I understand. And, well, that balance, of course, like you say, of needing to be patient and waiting to the final lap, whereas not everyone else wants to play that game. But still, a 6th place in race number 1, a solid set of points for your first race. And in race number 2, obviously starting a bit further back than what everyone had been told, but starting all the way back in what would have been, if my memory serves me correctly, none other than 26th place. We got to see you very quickly make your way through the field on the opening lap.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to avoid the crashes, of course, and I think at lap 2 I was already like P8 or P7 or maybe P9, I don't know. And then someone spun Josephine, and I avoided the crash. And then I went to the left, and then Tim Hendricks also came over the crash, and I was like, oh, why is he here? And then like I opened, and then I didn't leave enough space, sadly, when he was next to me, and then I like crashed out and got front wing damage. But like I think it's a race incident because, like, of course he tried to avoid me, and I tried to avoid like the other things. And then a bit unlucky, I was down like 2 P18 and had front wing damage, but the pit stop was like on point in my opinion. It was like really, really good, and I came in with like 0 fuel in the end, and I couldn't even go push the throttle anymore. So that was a close finish.
Oh, it was a close one, but still, for yourself, bringing home a 5th place finish in the end. So, in the end, taking a top 5 just about, and it's really been a solid way to start things off. And of course, and joining later in the season, I do have to ask, in terms of your previous experience of racing the Skippy, would you mind just telling us, have you just been racing the officials for multiple years or raced in other series? Out of curiosity.
So like last year was, or like 2 years ago, I was more into Formula 4, and then like in the D80 league, and then they like switched to Skippy. I mean, Skippy was always there, you know, and then I was like, okay, let me drive Skippy. I driving, and I was like, oh, this car, I don't like it in the beginning because like the first laps, just so hard to drive. But then I was like, oh, okay, let me just try the first race in Interlagos, and the first heat didn't went especially well because I got crashed out, but I won the second race. And then I was like, oh, this car is fun to fight, a bit difficult because even when people are slower, you can fight really well. And then, like, especially this year, I started out with official races, and I've trained like so much for Lebanon, and I've gained like 3,000 iRating in the last month, and because I'm just driving official races, and I'm getting like fastest qualifying lap this and there on this track, and I don't know, I was never that good in quality in Skippy. I was only like maybe top 7, and now I'm like consistently good. And also the races, I'm just driving it more tactical, and now it's really, really, really fun to drive the car. And not even winning every race. It's not like I want to win every race, of course, because I'm a racing driver, but I can live with a 3rd, 4th place and stuff because the community is nice, and most of the people are really nice, and it's nice community, and it's just nice car to drive. And I tried Formula 4 one day, and I got taken out by, I don't know, like lap guy and this and that, and I was like, okay, Skippy is like a really nice car to drive.
Oh, fantastic. Really appreciate the insight there on what's brought you all the way into Skippies and the fact that you feel very much at home and in a friendly community. That's what we love to hear. And well, looking to try and move forward, of course, we know you've got quick pace, perhaps not able to show it as much as you would have liked to today. Next up, we head to Oran Park Raceway. Can we expect you to see you on the grid next week? And if so, what's your plan?
Sadly, I can't because I'm a karting driver, as you might know, and I will be in Jesolo for the Central European Championship. And that's unfortunate, and that's why, that's why I didn't drive many races here yet. And it's like one of the many Sundays where I've got time now. So, but after like, on maybe like an 8th March, I will drive if there's a race.
Oh, fair play. Well, 8th of March, there definitely will be one. It will be at Bathurst, so I get the feeling we'll see you there for the season finale.
Ah, on my birthday Bathurst, that will be fun.
We couldn't have timed it any better. I promise you it wasn't planned, but well, we'll look forward to seeing you there. And just as we do get ready to let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
Yes, to Adam and Daniel, especially Adam, because he showed me how to have a good pit stop, you know.
Oh,
And
fair.
Daniel, because he just told me that I should like drive cleaner, and that it will get better like over the time, and that people will also be cleaner to me and stuff, and that worked out really well. And they're both really nice. I mean, everyone is really nice.
Oh, fantastic. I'm sure they'll appreciate the shout out. But Raphael, with that, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me in the interview room this evening. For the best of luck with your real life racing in next week. And I'm sure we'll all be cheering you along. But until Bathurst, we'll leave you to it and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks. You also have a good night. See you soon.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Raphael Bormer and, well, the real-life karting driver talking about his experience that has led him to race the Skippies and also the fact that today he came into this pair of rounds feeling as though he had the pace to really put himself up there, but in the end where he was hoping others would perhaps work together a little bit more fluidly, and then he did find the fighting was a bit against the grain, but still that's sometimes the way it goes. But you can hear in his attitude he's enjoying himself out there, and then every lap turn is a lap where you can be making sure more is learned, and in the end coming through from 7th to 6th to 5th over the course of our race events. Well, some solid points there, and whilst we won't be seeing him next week because of his real life motorsport, and we do wish him the best of luck in his racing on the European Series, well, we do look forward to, of course, him being back on his birthday weekend, and that will be for the Bathurst circuit. We will be crowning our champions there, and will he be able to end his season, a short one if you will, but could he end it with a podium or win of his own? We'll find out in 2 weeks' time. But ladies and gentlemen, more to come. Our next interview is just around the corner. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to our third interview, and a first-time interview from none other than, I do believe, Tom Payne, who now joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Tom. It's great to have you with us, and well, what a fun day you've had today. Qualifying might not have been the strongest, but to be fair, as the racing went on, plenty of fighting for yourself.
Yeah, very good afternoon or evening's worth of racing. That was, I remember one point laughing hysterically going down the hill, watching Jeff literally jump about 50 feet in the air. Wheel to wheel on the first one, really good. Really clean racing actually in the first one. I had an incident, I think, who it was with now. Either way, I had an incident with somebody going left up into the long run at the back of the circuit, and I gave him room, and he's turned in, and I think turned in a little bit too much, and then net code, and he's gone off the track, which is a shame because it was a 5-car battle turned into a 4-car battle, but the battle was absolutely fantastic on the first heat. Finished with a photo finish as well. But second race, absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam, all I can say. Survival, that first 2 laps.
Oh, 100%. And we'll gradually dissect things. And well, of course, you've been one of our stars further down the order. I do have to ask about the livery. I presume the Tom Payne special is a tribute to the John Player special liveries of the 80s?
Yes. Yeah, well, a friend of mine, about 5 or 6, no more than that, 8 years ago, he said, "Oh, I'll do your livery." And I said, "What do you want?" And I thought, I've always been absolutely in love with that livery. John Player livery. Fan of John Hunt, that James Hunt even, but that era. Loved it all, throughout my life. I'm getting on now. I'm in my 50s, so I come from that sort of era as a kid, seeing it actually, on track. And he said, "Yeah, I'll do your livery." And I said, "Yeah, change it to TPS, not JPS." So I just put it as Tom Payne Special, just for almost a joke, really. And I kind of stuck with it. And a few of my cars have got that on it now. And yeah, the other stuff I've got on there, the faces now just for fun, really. But I do love the livery. I did it myself. That one, the original one wasn't by me, but I do it myself now. It's something I've quite enjoyed doing now as well.
Oh, fantastic. And love the backstory there with regards to the inspiration for the livery. Indeed, the fonder years for Betty in Formula One and also open wheel racing. But coming to your racing today, qualifying 24th. We've normally seen you qualify around towards the back end of the top 15 or towards the bottom end of the top 20. How did you find the one-lap shootout?
I'm absolutely fluffed it straight away, to be honest. I knew I'd done a bad corner. The first corner, I washed out. I overdrove into the corner, ended up washing out, and then you lose half a second. If you lose half a second round here, you're at the back. The competition's so tight and so good that, yeah, I think I'm getting quicker as the season's progressing, but it's sort of like, getting up to speed almost, because you're in such deep water with these guys all running around 6k, 7k, 8k, and you think, well, where are they finding that time? But I'm starting to find it. I did fight quite well in the first race. My times are reasonably good as well, which I was happy with. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. I think you the more you try with Skippy, the slower you go. It's almost like you've got to let the car do the work.
Oh, fair play. And well, speaking of doing the work, we saw in the sprint, of course, like you mentioned only moments ago, a 5-way fight for 19th place in the end. You weren't too far off of it. There was a bit of that unfortunate contact between yourself, and I do believe it might have been Chris Wayne who got caught up. But flip side of the coin was plenty of fun to be had, and it looked as though it was always going to be nip and tuck at a circuit which really does cater to slipstream.
Yeah, a couple of times I thought I was going to lose contact, and I think early in the season I probably would have done, but I put a little bit of practice in here, and I think that paid off, and I was managed to reconnect. Because if you lose that, you drop below a second, and they've got, especially if they've got slipstream in front of you, they'll just pull away. So you've got to be within half a second if there's a few cars together to stay with the pack. Otherwise, you'll just detach quite quickly. And once you detach, you're not catching them back up, unless they start fighting massively or there's a big mistake.
I see. And well, in the end, made no mistake as such and just finished inside the top 20. But of course, then we had the fully inverted by accident grid for the feature, and it was survival in the opening couple. That's absolute pandemonium. But after that, well, it went a bit wrong for yourself, and you found yourself a bit of a lonely space for most of the race.
Yeah, kind of. It was because of the incident. The first corner incident, well, the second corner incident, was me reacting to Simon reacting to two cars on his right-hand side coming round and going off. So he's reacted, lost the car. I checked it on board in my stream, and I could see the car in front was literally beelining for me. So I've reacted and turned left. But Maximilian's coming up on the inside. He's got half a car's width on his left, to be fair. So he had room, so he could have gone tighter. But he's come up the inside, and I've gone left, avoiding what I think is going to be Chris coming across my nose. And I've caught his back wheel, and I didn't know he was there until I saw him at the last minute. You see, I looked on the stream and you can see myself turning right to avoid it, and then so after that, I'm recovering, and I'm in no man's land. And once you're in no man's land, you're just running around waiting for the finish in some respects, hoping for something to happen. But yeah, it's unfortunate because I was really hoping for a repeat of race one, but fate had other ideas, unfortunately.
Well, it was unfortunate, but still, can't always have the happiest day every round of racing, but we still got to see you make it to the finish and bring some points home. That actually brings us to the full 2 race weekends remain. Next time out, we're at Oran Park Raceway. We resurrect it from the dead. What can we expect from you there?
I'm reasonable around there. I'm probably going to be 15 to 20 again, unless something majorly happens, in the meantime. I don't see how I'm going to go that much faster, but probably between 15 and 20, I'd imagine, on the grid. So hopefully a little bit further forward. We'll see. Depends, especially if it's raining.
Oh, indeed, there might be the risk of rain, but we'd love to see you up there giving it your all to finish inside that top 15 and perhaps even to see you start towards the very front of the grid in the feature. And just as we get ready to let you go, Tom, I do have to ask, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
I'll give a shout out to Jeff, because Jeff set all this up. Obviously yourself's involved as well, and it's an absolute pleasure to come and race every week. It's been really fun, and long may it continue.
Oh, 100% with you on that, Tom. With that, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me in the interview room this evening. It's been a pleasure to have a chat with you. And, well, we wish you the best of luck for the upcoming remaining rounds of the season. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Good night.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Tom Payne, the first time we've had a chance to speak to him this season. But to be fair, what a lovely interview of him, giving us a bit of backstory with regards to the privateer livery there, the Tom Payne special, and in the end, talking about his day and how the one-lap shootout, definitely a qualifying session there where all went wrong at the opening corner. It's funny that we would hear a very similar story from one of our previous interviews of Rafael Burma, who talked about the fact they all went wrong in the opening couple of corners, and after that it really was downhill with regards to the qualifying lap. But the flip side of the coin, of course, being used in the draft, and well, we got to see Payne enjoy a brilliant five-way fight for 19th place. Unfortunately, a bit of contact between himself, and we do believe it might have been Chris Wayne he got caught up with, and he did put his hand up on that one, in the fact the two drivers mingling together in a bit of a racing incident from his perspective. But then also talking about the pandemonium of the start of the feature race and how he had to try and take evasive action from a car getting it wrong, and actually when all the field is close together through the opening couple of corners, well, the reaction of one car doesn't really translate into the reaction of the car behind, etc, etc, led to a pack of dominoes falling over, essentially. And in the end, well, it didn't quite work out for Tom, nor did it for several drivers. But to be fair, he didn't give up and was carrying the push on and looking forward to try and chase a top 15 or two in what will be our race at Oran Park in only a week's time. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more interviews to come. Who's it going to be with? Well, you'll just have to hold on for 10 seconds. We'll be back to find out. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for our final interview of the day, joining me now is none other than one of your major championship contenders. It is none other than Adam Miles. Adam, good evening to you, and well, what an evening it has been. An incredible pole position in the one-lap shootout, a third place in the sprint just ahead of your championship rival, and then a fourth place just behind him in the feature race. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was close today.
Yeah, there's not a lot I did wrong across the three races, really. Qualifying was, as good as it's going to get. I don't know if there was a 46 in there somewhere, but there certainly wasn't another 0.2. So, yeah, almost a perfect qualifying lap. Really set things up pretty well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was a staggering lap when you consider the rest of the field was separated by hundreds and tenths, and then you just hundreds and thousands, I should say, and you just decide to come along by a couple of attempts. But of course, qualifying is only one part of the story, and in the race we saw the absolute override of the slipstream here really control the narrative. But for the first 18 minutes or so of race number one, it was really back and forth in a pack of six.
Well, I for the first time this season, I was unsure whether a tank was going to get me to the end, particularly if obviously I've got JRT up. It tells me what my maximum fuel consumption was. And I think by the end of lap one, maybe somewhere in lap two, I was 0.8 of a lap short, and I thought that can't be right. We've never had to stop in a sprint race before. But I was sitting there doing the maths, sort of 145 times 8, and how is it going to be close? And JRT wasn't wrong. The race was going a lap longer, and I just didn't have the fuel at my maximum speed. So I actually really just fuel saved for at least the first 2/3 of the race, just to make sure I had enough. And then tried to make a move in the last few laps, and I did hear someone call out over the radio a lap from the end, "Help! I'm running out of fuel." So I obviously wasn't the only one. So I just sort of sat back really for the first 2/3 and tried to make my way through at the end.
Oh, absolutely fair. Well, that's a surprise, but really appreciate the insight there of the fuel limitation, perhaps for yourself and some other drivers in the sprint race, really changing the flow of the race. Of course, it was 5 wide at the finish line, only a tenth separated the top 5, and you found yourself third there. But I do believe you mentioned in the YouTube chat after that race a bit of a brush with the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't want to be P4 coming out of the final corner, but a gap opened up on Steff's left-hand side. I think he had a little bit of a touch with, maybe it was Jeff. I think it was one of the old Git cars. The gap opened up, I went in it, and I just probably tried to leave Steff a little bit too much room and just brushed the wall. I've had a look back, I lost 2 miles an hour just at that moment. So, that was the difference between the 16 milliseconds I needed to come through there. So it was a bit of a shame. But then again, maybe if I'd not left the room, I'd have clipped Steff and ended up pointing backwards. So for the sake of 16 milliseconds and coming home third, that was a good result for the championship.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's always those what-if questions, but with certainty, we come onto your feature race. Now, of course, a surprise for everyone, perhaps, that it wasn't a top 15 inversion, but it would be a full grid inversion. As soon as you heard that, did that change the way you looked at the race at all? Before, of course, all the chaos unfolded.
I mean, it didn't really change too much. You've got to approach the reverse grid races with a view to just getting through lap 1. There's no winning the race on lap 1. And I know some of the guys ahead, you've got faster cars coming through, slower cars, and I was just lucky. I mean, there was an incident in turn 2, an incident down into the hairpin of, I guess it's turn 4. Going over the crest for there was another crash there, and it was just a case of trying to be careful but not too careful. So I had Tim behind me, and I know he'll take any opportunity to crash me out. So I know he's listening, and so I took it cautiously. He managed to avoid me, and I managed to avoid everyone else. So got through lap 1, and I thought, okay, right, hopefully it's going to settle down a bit now, and it did. But the race didn't quite go according to plan, unfortunately.
Well, not quite to plan, but you survive those opening couple of laps, like you say. And, well, one of the big flashpoints, of course, in the feature race beyond the opening 2 laps was the pit stop. From your perspective, what happens? It looked as though the three of you, Steff Herrmann, yourself, and Daniel Tuga, were all playing the game of trying to break as late as possible to the pit entry line, but it all went a bit too close.
Yeah, I obviously practiced my pit entry, and there's a little black mark on the tarmac on the left-hand side where I realised you can brake there. And I think the nature of iRacing pit lane speed limit lines is you can fly through them at sort of actually 6 or 7 miles an hour faster than the posted speed as long as you get down. And Steff was 5 miles an hour below the speed limit line before the cones, so he'd braked too early, or at least too early in my view. I managed to get it stopped. We would have got away with it. I did tap the back of Steff, but then Daniel came in even faster than I came in, probably braking at his intended sort of stopping point, and just went under my gearbox and turned me around into the grass. So it was sort of race over from that point, from a win perspective. I think I lost about 7 seconds just turning the car around, getting the fast repair, and leaving the pit. So to finish only 5 seconds off the lead in P4 after pointing backwards at the pit entry lines, again a massive damage limitation result for me.
Oh, 100%. And off the back of that as well, we saw an absolutely phenomenal fastest lap of the race from yourself. Obviously, Slipstream played a factor, but I do believe you were the only driver over the race distance in the feature to set a 45, and we're at a 45.5 as well. I mean, that must have made you proud, thinking that's another bonus point well in the bag.
Yeah, that lap just, sometimes you do a lap and you get toe down into turn 1 and you get toe into turn 3. I made, I think, a couple of passes as well at some point in the lap, and then I got another toe out of the final couple of corners, so it really didn't get held up at all. I mean, that goes to show how much the slipstream's worth. It's probably 6 or 7 tenths, looking at sort of times I was doing in practice by myself versus that lap time. So it's massive if you can have it. It just happened to work out pretty well for me.
Oh, 100%. And, well, as we look ahead now to only 4 rounds remaining provisionally after today, with drop scores being applied, you have now moved into the lead of the championship. Orion Park is next. How are you feeling knowing you are now our championship leader?
It's been a long time coming because I obviously missed the first couple of rounds, so I've been it's difficult to calculate where I was sitting. I knew I was having good results and relative to Daniel and Marcus and Steff. So it's finally shaken out that the drop weeks are applying. And I can see sort of the gap I've got. So yeah, I mean, this today wasn't my greatest result. In fact, today might even be a drop round for me, a P3 and a P4. So I can look to pick up a few more points at Oran Park. I think Jeff may have mentioned it was going to be wet. I think if I remember correctly. So I do like Oran Park, and it's going to be a scary track in the wet. It's not a lot of room to make mistakes.
Well, not much room to make mistakes, but to be fair, make no mistake, we look forward to seeing what you can do there next week. And as we do get ready to let you go, instead of asking you to give a shout out today, with the thought of wet weather being around the corner, how do you adapt to the wet in the Skippy if you had to summarise it with a single tip?
Ooh, my experience of the wet in the Skippy is that you've got to find the line into every corner that doesn't have the rubber down. It's almost usually not the racing line. But the fronts lock so easily in the wet in the Skippy that you just have to find that. It might be the inside, it might be the middle, it might be far to the left. You just practice enough that you can figure out where those puddles are, where the rubber's gone down, and how to avoid it. Because if you try and take the racing line in the Skippy in the wet, you are probably 4 or 5 seconds a lap off. So it's really just a learning exercise for each track you come to work out where the grip is.
I see. I really appreciate the insights there, Adam. And well, with that, we'll call it there for today. But congratulations on a podium and a 4th place to go with it. A great set of results and a phenomenal pole lap as well. The championship lead may be yours, but will it stay yours at Oran Park? We'll see. But until then, well done, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Paul.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Adam Miles, the privateer who right now is flying high, and will definitely great to hear his thoughts there with regards to racing, and really breaking open the fact that in qualifying, very impressed with his lap, one of his best, and really up there with his Optima. He couldn't go much faster, but when it came to the racing, well, in the sprint, found himself, unfortunately, just a little bit too tight to the wall and having to negotiate a very tight space right at the end. Otherwise, it may have been the 16 thousandths he needed to take the win, or it could have been 16 thousandths that were on the horizon but contact with another car. But still, a 3rd place ahead of his rival, the most important factor of them all. And in the feature race, didn't change his attitude to the race, regardless of whether he started right towards the very back or towards the very back of the top 15, and in the end just made his way forward. And after the chaos at the very start, we found his own chaos in on the pit lane entry, when he broke it down there in terms of the art of pitting, which is you can be slightly over the speed limit on entry as long as you get the car down very quickly. And when in the end, a difference of 3 braking points to the 3 drivers coming into the pit, unfortunately ended up with him backwards in the grass. Although, as he mentioned there, the fact that he was able to get it turned around and in the end finish only 5 seconds off the winners with that, well, that's not bad going, to be fair. And now championship leader provisionally coming out of this pair of rounds. Well, for Adam Miles, all the hard work is now paying off. And at Oran Park, if he can make it match up again, he may just give himself the most favourable position going into the season finale at Bathurst. But will he be able to do so? That's what we'll have to find out in a week's time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's now time for us to wrap up our interviews and give you a quick reminder of who we've spoken to today. And as we can see, as our interviews do come from there, do apologise, that's like technical hitch. Well, it's none other than Brian Kelly, who we first came to, the privateer there in the 3-2-1. Absolutely brilliant to hear from him today. And indeed, after a challenging qualifying session where other rivals had challenges as well, he was able to overcome it and make his way forward with 7th in the sprint and quite a very happy podium, a runner-up spot in the feature race, knowing the win wasn't quite there, but definitely that 2nd place was. Raphael Bomber then joined us on his debut and will enjoy himself in the Skippy, and unfortunately not with us next week, but we wish him the best luck in his real-life karting racing. We expect him back at Bathurst. I'll tell you one thing, with 7, 6 and 5 today in terms of his positions, well, can he go for 4, 3, 2 and perhaps even 1 next time out when he's on the grid? We'll have to see. And then Tom Payne we heard from, and whilst he may have been further down the order, absolutely loving the fight in the sprint race, although unfortunately in the feature race things didn't go quite right with the open lap instance. And then we just heard from championship leader provisionally Adam Miles there with that incredible pole lap, and then in the podium and a 4th, and knowing that even today's performances could make up a drop score, but to be fair to him, right now he's definitely the one that everyone is looking at to see how far they can explore a way of getting past him. Well, congratulations to all 4 of our drivers on their brilliant performances today, and a big thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Skip Barber Community Trophy, in terms of how you can get on the grid, or alternatively just join the community, and we'd be more than happy to have you. Well, of course, the best way to do so is to join the official Discord. Invite link available on screen there, and there's never been a better time to become part of the Skip Barber Community Trophy. And indeed, whether you are a rookie, you've never driven the Skippy, all the way through to someone who's been driving it for years, don't worry, there is a spot on the grid just for you, and we'd love to see you join us. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, who do include, of course, firstly, none other than what is Musical Money. Now, in terms of who Musical Money are, well, the quick, easy and safe way to turn your unwanted musical equipment into money is Musical Money, because no matter what your equipment may be, if you want to sell it, Musical Money is there to buy it, thereby taking the hassle out of selling your unwanted musical equipment. And with their groundbreaking website, as shown on screen, selling your musical equipment could not be easier for a website which has put the user experience at the core of its design. So why not check out said website? Go to www.musical-money.co.uk today to find out more on how you can turn your unwanted musical equipment into money. But as well, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to say a big thank you to our other title sponsor, and that, of course, is none other than the Old Git Racing team. Established in 2024, the Old Git Racing team aims to prove that age is just a number in the world of racing. Headed by Jeff Randall, the team races in multiple disciplines but is especially dedicated to the Skip Barber Formula 2000 machine. Regardless of the car, they aim to keep their racing fair and close whilst also respecting the fact that mistakes can happen to even the very best. And if you'd like to know more about the team, be sure to head to their Twitch channel, which you can see on screen right now, and this being their Twitch channel, and that is at none other than www.twitch.tv/OldGitRacer, where you can check out their racing, including their onboard perspectives from the Skip Barber Community Trophy. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, a huge thank you to our title sponsors. We're always grateful to both Musical Money and the Old Git Racing team. And well, now the big question is, what exactly is lying in wait? Well, next time out, on the Sunday, the 1st of March 2026, we head back in time and we revive from the grave the Oran Park Raceway for rounds 21 and 22. A narrow circuit packed full of corners and short straights, and with the risk of rain as well, it's definitely going to be a circuit where for our drivers, they're going to need to put in plenty of practice, because to do well there, you've got to drive on the absolute limit from start to finish. And after our pair of rounds at Phillip Island, we have seen the championship lead change hands. Adam Miles has taken the lead, but Steff Herrmann is not too far behind. Which of the leading pair are going to be leading the way coming out of Oran Park, and can Marcus Byfeldt, who still is within a chance with the top three all together still separated by only a grand total of 68 points, can Marcus Byfeldt keep his championship hopes alive, or will we see it go down to a two-horse race between Miles and Herrmann by the time we get to the mountain at Bathurst? Well, for all that and more, tune in next week to find out how the story continues. But until then, we've been the Skip Barber Community Trophy. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning to a Paul Walsh production. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.